Be the pledge to the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we start on the agenda, I would just like to, and I'm sure we all here at the dais, our thoughts and prayers are with the people of the Ukraine, any in Mount Airy who have relatives over there or who are Ukrainian, know that our thoughts and prayers are with you. Before we start, I'd also like to remind everyone to silence their cellular, any of their devices that they have on. And as we get into the discussions with the rezoning, we will go over the amount of time that you have for the discussions and how we will proceed. The first thing, order of business, is the approval of the minutes from January 31st, 2022. Are there any additions or corrections?
I move that we accept the minutes.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the minutes from the January 31st meeting. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion carries. Our next item of business is for citizens' comments. These are comments of things that are not on the agenda. And if there is anyone who has any comments concerning anything not on the agenda, you would come forward to the podium, state your name, your address, and any concerns that you may have. Is there anyone at this time? All right, seeing none, we will move on. John, I think we're going to need some more chairs.
Yep, we got more out in the hallway if we need them.
Okay. First, we're going to hear from the planners. We did actually hear from Tim Goodfellow. He will not be in attendance today, this evening. However, he will be at our next meeting.
Is that okay?
Tim Goodfellow.
Oh, okay.
We do, however, have Hannah with us. Hannah?
Hello, everybody. Good to see everybody in
Yeah.
person. Not many updates compared to last month. We wrapped up the residential text. It's now been published by American Legal online. That was done after the January meeting, so it's ready if you guys want to look at it online. We are working on the agriculture and conservation zones right now. We are currently working with a work group, and our last meeting with them is in March. And other than that, I don't have any other updates from last month.
Okay, I think, John, did you give the copy of the letter to everyone there?
Yes, everybody's got a copy of the letter.
Okay, there's a copy of a letter that I need to sign. You can just peruse it. And if you are all in agreement, it will be handed to Hannah. It's the,
There's a few things here.
The annual report.
it's the, it's,
Okay, one with your name on it.
yes. She has talked about it in the past.
Yeah, it's for the annual report the county puts
Thank you,
together.
annual report.
Yeah. For every municipality.
Mr. Dave Dahlstrom.
Yes.
And that'll be presented to our planning commission if you guys are interested, probably in May. And it's due to MDP July 1st, the whole report.
You say that's in May?
Yeah, most likely if everything goes to schedule.
Okay. I'm giving everyone a couple minutes to look over that because that was something that was not in our package. Everybody okay?
Yeah.
Okay, good, because I've already signed it.
You tell us.
No, don't just say that, Mark.
Well, in anticipation of you all agreeing so that John will hand you a copy so you can take it back with you.
Yep.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Hannah at this time?
Cool.
Thank you.
Have a good meeting.
Thanks. Okay, the next order of business is for a building permit approval. It's Canyon Contractors at 2501 Backacre Circle. They are putting in a proposed pole building, which is actually a storage shed on their existing lot. And John just handed us their staff report, and I proceeded to lose it.
Apologize that wasn't in your initial package.
That's all right.
I dropped it off. And so this is just a little out of the ordinary. The gentleman started building the building on the site. The site plan approval actually was for 2 buildings initially. If you go through your packet, it's if you go through your first page, it's going to show you the overall site, and then there's an existing gravel lot to the west of the property. That's kind of the location. If you go to the third page, this would show the original approved site plan. And I thought Mr. Keller was going to be here. Are you going to speak on his behalf, Ron? Can you come up to the table if there's any questions? So again, if you look at the fourth sheet, it shows the approved site plan. And this was building A, was initially designed for the location of putting the storage shed. So basically, a citizen saw the construction and alerted us, and we basically put a stop work on their construction. So I wanted to bring it in front of you because, again, it is being built in the location of an approved building A. And again, it does exceed the normal allowed size as well for a pole building. So anyway, it's again in the industrial zone, but I just wanted to get your approval and have you guys know about it before I signed off on the building. Do you have any other questions for me or for Ron?
You said it was larger. Oh, is that?
You said that the building is larger than normal?
Well, I'll say it's just larger than your normal shed permit that you would have. So it's a new building. It's about 1/10 of the size of the approved building A that's already approved as part of the site plan. So,
If I may, it's a temporary structure that's being used as part of the lots currently is being used as storage. So as a temporary structure, it does not have a foundation or anything that would meet the conditions of a building requiring a building permit. It's with Carroll County under a permit for temporary structures. 24 by 24 for industrial, larger than what you would see like in my backyard there for a temporary shed. When people talk about sheds, they think about, what people bring on a truck and dump there for you to put your garden equipment in. The plan, again, is that there is an approved site plan. They've built the first building, which is building B. The plan eventually will be to construct building A. Time frame most likely dependent upon material costs, and everybody kind of is going steel, no, and et cetera, which makes a huge difference right now as to whether or not you can even have a viable building, although there are 3 or 4 of them going up along Backacre Circle to fulfill those permitting needs. So again, this is just a temporary structure that would be removed because it would be in the middle of the building in the parking lot when that.
How long is temporary?
2 years, 3. We don't know.
Until they can put in the new building there. There's been some whispers about it, but again, it comes back to market and, it's 19,000 square feet of office and 3,200 square feet of warehouse in the new building.
And this was brought back to us because It's an amendment, actually, to the site plan, so that's why.
Well, technically, it's not even an amendment. I think it is more of an informational purpose for you. We view it as an informational purpose since someone from outside of the town raised it as an issue to the town,
Right.
to John. So therefore, in the interest of transparency and everybody understanding, just bringing it before you.
Was there any feedback from the neighbors of that, of the lot?
So what I was received is basically, was curious because it would never came in front of planning commission for approval for that type of building. There was building A was what was approved, not a metal pole barn. So he was just questioning that he had never seen an approval process for that temporary structure, as Ron's calling it. You know, a temporary structure could become a permanent structure if they never build building A. So anyway, that's why I'm bringing it in front of you, because I want to get your approval to make sure you're aware of something being built on the site that you approved previously that's not what was shown on the approved plan. And I'm not
So-
saying we have to do an amended site plan, but I think you should be aware of what's going on. And just wanted to get your blessing. Go ahead.
So can you just clarify that once this temporary shed is gone, then that will be replaced with what we already approved?
Yes, at the time that they move forward to construct Building A, that shed has to go because it'll be in the way of the building and the parking lot.
Right, so that'll go back to the plan that we approved.
Yes.
All right, and should there be a timeline on this? Like you were just saying, if A never gets built, then the temporary becomes permanent. So do we
No,
approve
the
it?
only way the temporary would become permanent is,
That's what John just said.
Yeah, at what point does it become an amendment?
So we say 2 years and then they come back if
Well,
it's
I
not,
mean,
or what?
I don't want to, that's up to you guys if you want to put some kind of restriction on
That-
timeline, but I don't think,
Then you get to regulating business, which I'm not sure from a planning commission you want to do. The definition of a temporary building is that it doesn't have a foundation to it. That's what the town code has, which is why Canyon has constructed it. I think it's a lot nicer than what you would normally see for a temporary shed there.
I mean, there's just two parts here. On the one hand, you're building something that we did not approve and we're asking you questions about it. And on the other hand, you're saying that we don't have a right to make any kind of conditions because then we're regulating business. But you're building something that we didn't approve.
Well, if he had just dumped a shed off the back of a truck there and gotten a shed permit, doesn't require planning commission
you wouldn't
approval.
have had
the
a.
shed permit is only 15 foot tall, 10 by 10 on a non-permanent structure. You have footings in the ground in a location.
There are no footings on this.
Well, you're telling me, so it has they call it a concrete biscuit on top of, that's 3 foot underground, below frost grade. So you're not calling that a foundation?
No.
Tom,
So
can
you
you,
dug holes in the, so anyway, I call that a permanent structure.
Tom,
You're
can you
digging in the
weigh,
ground.
I'm sorry, can you weigh in on this for me, please?
From the seat of my pants, I don't, other than my understanding that something was coming up by way of an amended site plan, I'd have to look at the code. I don't offhand know what sort of the dividing line is between when you have to get a site plan approval or an amended site plan, as the case may be. My hunch would be that this sounds like an anchored, shall we say, structure to the ground. I don't know what the code says off the top of my head about foundations versus biscuits and things like that. I don't know.
Yeah, sir, you have to go around to the microphone, just who you are and your address.
For me, storage. But I had sent you an email, and I don't think you responded.
Okay.
That had some code compliance stuff to it.
Right, but when I read through that, it wasn't specific to this type of code. And I'm not saying that it shouldn't be built. I'm just saying I'm getting the planning commission's approval to allow me to sign off on the building permit because it's outside my realm.
Understood.
I
Right.
think, you
And
know,
we just got it,
Yeah.
you know, we didn't have it until we walked in
If
today.
we ever build, or when we build, there's no, that temporary shed is basically a support shed, trying to keep building material dry and out of the weather. So that would obviously come down.
I don't have a problem with the structure. I guess I'm struggling with when, if it were to stay, which I don't believe it will.
Right.
But, and I do understand with the materials cost, like I'd wait too. But 2 years, I think, is fair
I
to
think that's fair.
revisit it, to see, because if it stays, then it's not what the intended site plan was. Not that we're putting a timeline on when you have to start building Lot A, but it would be nice to revisit this, to see where it is based on whether the shed's staying or if it's going. But I don't think my intention is not to stop it or to get in the way of it, but I do think we should revisit it. And I don't know, I mean, is 2 years fair?
Yep.
I mean, can we, like, to just bring it back and talk about it, just to see where things are?
And, I mean, we could
That
also,
would be fair to all concerned.
right, and we could also put in there after completion of Building A that the shed's gonna be torn down.
well, yeah, it would be, I basically said that in the staff report, that if the shed stays, then they'd have to do an amended site plan to change Building A.
Okay,
But again, we can put a 2-year, try to come back in 2 years.
yeah, that's good.
Do I hear a motion for that, please?
So if you take the thing down, let me know, please.
Crank it over to your place.
No.
Then make a motion?
Well, I guess I'll try to
Scott?
articulate that, what I said. Let's see, make a motion that we approve the applicant to finish the construction of that storage structure and in its current location. We revisit this in 2 years to see if the site plan needs to be amended, and I guess we'll go from there.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Your turn.
Thanks, Phil.
Take your pick, Deb. It's been moved and seconded that we recommend the approval to allow the owner applicant to finish the construction of the storage shed at its current location and to revisit this in 2 years, which would be February 2024. All those in favor of the recommendation signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, give him his building.
We'll sign off on it tomorrow.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
I keep losing, there it is. We have so much paperwork up here, I keep losing my agenda, I need to like. The first thing is the site plans and subdivision amended plats. The first thing we're going to be looking at this evening is S-20-0031, Mount Airy Medical Eye Center, 1404 South Ridgeside Drive, the concept site plan for the development for the eye care facility. First, we'd like to hear from the applicant or his representative. You want to dim the lights so we can better see this? Courtenay, are you going to talk first, speak first?
Sure.
Okay.
So I'll speak first.
Okay, go ahead.
So again, this is the concept plan for the Mount Airy Medical Eye Center. You'll see the elevation that was in the hallway and also up on the screen. This is the one that came through the MP district. We had a previous meeting to get approval for the building elevations and finishes. I wanted to present the elevation tonight just so you could have a better perspective on what is being proposed on the site. Again, this is in MP zone. It is a concept site plan approval. It's for a local business that's currently in the Twin Arts Shopping Center, and he's relocating and becoming a landowner instead of a land renter or a building renter. So it's exciting to see this type of business come into town or stay in town. Again, there was nothing out of the ordinary for this site. The only big concern I have, and when I drove there to put the sign up on the property, the evergreens that are between the Cowboy and this property are into Ridgeside Court. So they're gonna have to get removed or elevated to a point. There was also a comment to the fire department.
Are those, okay, those are the evergreens you're talking about?
Yeah, so
Okay.
they'll probably have to get removed, in my
Yes.
opinion, and something put in that's smaller. I need to look back and see if they were part of an original site plan, possibly for the Cowboy Saloon, or Salon, excuse me.
Was built, they weren't that big. The problem is, when that was built, they weren't that big.
Right, exactly. So I think, and again, this will help Dr. Boaz's property be more visible from 27 as well. So I think it's a win-win, and I think, yeah, they're a bit overgrown. So that's one of my big comments, but I need to do some more research on that. So I don't know if you have any other questions for the applicant.
Does this face 27, kind of?
So this corner, this elevation here, this elevation are kind of, I would say, parallel or perpendicular to 27.
Adjacent, parallel.
So you'll kind of see the corner.
Okay,
I would say where my cursor is kind of like really, this one is really the edge of 27.
Okay.
So you'll see two sides heading north.
you can just stay there, coordinate while if there's any questions from the commissioners.
Well, I'll say I actually like the design of the structure. I think it looks great. Honestly, I think it'll look really nice coming down 27. So I like what you've done there.
Very clean site. We first heard about this 4 or 5 years ago, did we not?
I don't think it was that long ago, was it? I think it might have been 2. The COVID really messes with me, but it might have been 2 years ago that we came in. If you turn your microphone off while you're turning your pages, might be.
Sorry.
That's it, you can turn it off.
Hey, John, my question is, I think you might have answered this already about the elevations. So is this, let's say the corner in this, is this the part that's facing directly to 27? Like,
No.
okay, so this is facing more towards the hair salon and
So no, this is,
Five Guys and
so
stuff.
this is gonna be facing Dr. Andrews and East Ridgeville Boulevard would be
Okay.
this face. So the site, like you're saying, the back edge of the site. So yeah, so when I say this corner is really what's gonna be facing 27, is the orientation of the building. That's really what you're gonna see, majority of the corner and this left side of the building.
Okay,
But
Be
you'll
able to
still be
see
able to
the rear
see
of the
all this as
building
well.
from
All right.
27.
that's what I thought, just, okay, cool.
All right, do you have any other pictures, or just,
That's the only one I have. I mean, I have the
you have
the
the-
elevations
okay.
beneath it, but
all right,
I don't know if that's really anything.
so if,
Basically, the corner is the closest thing to 27.
so let's go to the C500 where we have the sign. Itself is nice, don't get me wrong, but this is not, when you look at how you've put the design there, where you have the sign and it looks like it's on like 2 poles or 2 posts. That's not what we do here in the town. We do what are called monument signs. So we'd like to see it more of a monument sign than a sign, it looks like it's just put in the ground.
Which sign are you talking about? The sign that's on the second level there?
No, it's if you look here in the corner, it says C500.
I got it, I'm there.
Okay. Do you see in the left-hand corner of that?
This?
Yes.
That structure.
All right, so where is that gonna be? Oh, okay.
See how it has like more of I mean, these are 8-inch metal poles, but that's more of a pylon style sign.
It's a pylon, thank you, as opposed to a monument sign.
Do we do monument outside of downtown zone? I wasn't
Yes.
sure that was, is that?
Yes.
Okay.
What we can do is we can, instead of doing the 2 posts, we can do CMU block that's poured solid with grout, and then we can veneer that with.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you
Have to
because there's
drop
too
your
much
mask.
paper rush. Thank your mask off, thank you.
Can you hear me better now?
Yes,
Okay. What we can do is we can create a CMU block wall, pour it solid with concrete, and then we can veneer that with a stone so that it's.
awesome. That's perfect. That's perfect. It'll even look nicer, give it a little more class. Got a lot of retaining wall here.
A lot of retaining wall?
Yeah.
Yes. So we were looking at 2 options for that, landscape blocking or concrete. So what we would do is, for the concrete, pour it solid, and then maybe put a texture to the exterior of it.
Okay, and we can, since this is just the concept, you will bring that back with a, further detail. I just wanted to mention the sign, so we didn't get too far deep into it.
Sure.
Okay, any other questions from the commission?
Does the sign on the building, will that have lights in it, or is it
Yeah,
just
it'll be backlit,
backlit?
yes.
Thank you.
Are there any comments from anyone in the community? Any community comments?
So my recommendation was to approve the concept plan as submitted, and let them move forward with approving all the comments through Carroll County and the town.
Yeah, unless we have anything else, I would move that we.
Okay, seeing none, I'll move that we recommend conditional approval of the concept site plan for 1401 Ridgeside Court, subject to all the town and county agency comments being addressed.
A second.
It's been seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? You have an approved concept plan. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Okay, Barney, can you turn the lights back on?
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, our next amended plan is S21-0015, the Twin Arch Industrial Subdivision, Lot 7A. This would be the second amended Twin Arch Self-Storage Concept Site Development Plan.
That's horrible looking. Ron, are you representing them? As I have up on the projector currently are hard to read and difficult to see. I apologize. Sure if it's even worth leaving it up there. The only recommendation I had, and I spoke to the owner earlier, is that where the Backacre Circle comes in, the Backacre Circle Road meets Century Drive, that building, similar to the Cube Smart, has a masonry finish to the outside of it. Their current structure shows pillars on both ends of the building with metal siding in the middle. I think they were saying that that's what they're going to pull down into the building that'll be facing Backacre Circle.
Ron, I've got a question. Is there a projected time frame for seeing a completed traffic generation study?
There would be no traffic study for this. The peak hour trip are 9 trips, well under the threshold for completion here.
All right. There's an ongoing concern for the increasing traffic that, that industrial area is going to generate on Twin Arch Road, because we already have a D-level intersection up to 27.
You know, when we estimate traffic, go by ITE, which says 9 peak hour trips. Whether or not you actually have 9 peak hour trips, because people generally, when they rent these facilities, they're gonna go there, store their materials, and you're not gonna go at 7 a.m. in the morning to get your Christmas decorations or whatever you've stored in there. They look at it as long-term storage. Right.
Right, it's just a cumulative, thing with all of these different businesses and storage facilities and stuff, many of which that you work on, so you know.
Well, also, there were 2 traffic studies that were completed for, one for the Goddard School and one for Brittany Manor. Both of those traffic studies included all of the development within the Backacre Circle area and the Century Drive, so that, and did not have that type, so we included full development of this site in that study and did not raise that.
When were those done? How long ago?
I don't.
Brittany met 3 years ago, maybe.
Okay. John,
4 years ago.
I think it would be instructive if we identified those studies and reviewed them to get a better idea of where we are in terms of realizing that traffic impact.
So there is an issue going on there in front of the Goddard School now. People are parking in the street on both sides. I don't know if it's because the lot can't handle it or what, but around the 2-3 o'clock hour each day, there's double parking on both sides up against the Brittany Manor neighborhood, and it's actually kind of dangerous to walk like through it. There's sidewalk there, so it's nice on one side, but there's an encroachment of that roadway. So it's got to be addressed at streets and roads, because it's not a safe situation.
I think it's a topic that's already come up.
Yeah, well, it was new to me. I walked past it and I was kind of surprised. I didn't know how long that was happening. It seems new, but anyway.
It might be a different issue, because there was an issue a
No,
couple
not the
years
center
ago.
stage stuff. This is
different.
right in front of Goddard School
Yeah.
against the Brittany Manor neighborhood.
Yeah.
And it's the double parking, like it kind of goes from the Goddard School down Backacre, not so much up, but down.
That's
the-
technically is still a private street, so the town can't.
Right.
There was some
Well,
issue that
it's,
she talked
you know,
about.
they'll look into it. Streets and roads, different matter. But what I'll say is where this lot is, this particular lot, has there been any thought about if Century connects to 27, and that would be where the road would go, up like through the hill up to 27 in the future? We've talked about that. So this would be on the corner of that. Does that affect any?
That's not
consideration?
correct. So Century Drive will probably go over to the access road, where a new road, Center Street Extended, would go down towards the wastewater treatment plant.
Doesn't this bump, isn't that lot, isn't that the corner lot of that?
No, so the
Below.
Beck property is, it's got 40 acres there that goes against
Right.
the, so again, Century Drive will extend out maybe almost the same distance that it currently is, maybe 2/3 of the distance Century Drive is currently, will extend to the wastewater treatment plant road. And then that's where the Center Street extension will be going through. So this won't be a corner lot.
I mean,
Gotcha,
It'll
okay.
still be access road to our water station, but it might not be right at that location. With the subdivision that comes in for Brittany Manor, they might change the entrance to our actual water tower, possibly. I don't know if that's,
Gotcha.
I don't
Okay,
know if we have an easement currently across there, or if that's gonna get modified.
I didn't know that the Center Street was gonna go down that far.
It will. Did you say, Ron?
Okay.
The master plan, consistent with the master plan, has Century Boulevard wrapping around to become Center Street up to Route 27.
Okay.
But that area would be 100 to 200 yards up from where Century
Yeah.
Drive.
Oh, quite a ways, yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
Any other questions?
Sorry, Ron, I was a little bit late due to family issues with the basketball game, so I do apologize for that. I do have some concerns and questions here for the applicant. First off, concern is that I might be unfamiliar with how things should be, I want to say, posted or signage for even an amended site plan, because this does change what might have been an approved use earlier of what I would call professional office space buildings. I don't believe this. Okay, so there was never amended site plan on that or anything. Okay, all right. So I'm still concerned that this was not posted on the property as an amended site plan so the public could be aware that something's being proposed to be built there. I'm not sure if that's standard procedure for amended site plan or not. If not, it should be considered that. But I do have some questions regarding the actual site plan itself and the views from the elevations and stuff. From the map elevations, it appears that the site will be made fairly level over time, I mean, fairly flat. So one building won't be stacked on top of the other. Everything should cover.
Correct.
Okay,
I mean,
within reason.
right, simply because of accessibility and
Yeah.
everything
So
that goes with
looking east to west, everything should kind of be behind each building. So, okay. Also, just more of a correction, technical thing on the elevation, sheet. Some of the elevations should be, particularly for Building 7, need to be relabeled because you got couple double easts and double wests or double souths on there. So it was hard to tell what looks what on that. This is more on the elevation or the type of building that will be put there, Ron. It appears when possible, each unit will have 3 overhead doors. Not overhead doors, but it's like the door spacing on the side, on the exterior entrances are very narrow. So I'm wondering how many units will be totally in this complex? Because I came up with about 140.
typically that most of the spaces in their demand right now are 20 by 20 foot storage lockers.
Okay.
And that's what this is designed around. There are some 10 foots, or they can be divided into
Okay.
10 foots. It really depends upon what the market demand is there.
And I got some, not concerned, some interest, like, it looks like some of them will be interior access units or?
There will be some interior access units,
Okay.
and then exterior doorways too.
Yeah, okay, so that, okay, this one is
And the
gonna.
if you'll note that along Century Drive, there will be no doors facing.
Oh, yeah, no. I totally picked that up on the elevation. That was totally fine. I would appreciate that. So people, but this kind of plays back to the CubeSmart too. It appears that on this property, there's only one point of egress or entrance and exit. And the CubeSmart one will have 2 based on the fact that it may be fire department access. So if the fire department requires a second access to this lot for safety, where would that be going? Because it looks like it's not able to handle a second entrance to it.
First of all, I don't think that they would be requiring it due to the size of the lot.
Okay.
CubeSmart lot was about 3 times this size.
Okay.
And that's one of the reasons we had additional access.
Because that would probably come up, so I just wanted to clarify that too. Also, is there, clarification might just be the drawing, is there parallel parking in front of some of the units? Okay, so I read that correctly, okay.
That's typically what you see for self-storage. Remember that these are not, it's a town code that requires you to have X amount of parking,
Right.
but the reality of, these are not long-term parking. People pull up, unload their goods, and then they're gone. They park for the day.
All right, I just want to make sure I'm reading it
Correct.
right too, Ron, so I just, Nope, that should, hold on, one more. Nope, that should do it. Thank you, Ron. I got some questions on just more how to interpret some of the drawings and stuff, so maybe you and I can catch up later, because it looks like there was the buyer retention ponds and,
What we have for stormwater management are two structures at the entrance which treat the 1-inch required stormwater management. Then we have a volume, somewhat of a sand filter in front of the buildings.
yeah.
But set so that if you're driving or looking, it will be below.
The sight line, the plane of sight. That's what I was afraid of. I noticed, like, next to the entrance, you had a couple of those potential raised.
No, they're underground.
Okay, they're underground.
They're
too.
underground.
You know the two little cube blocks I'm talking about on the
Yeah.
deck there?
They're underground there along the
Okay.
entrance.
All right.
And this is, the front is, I've shown what is required and landscaping has been approved by code.
Yeah.
Previous occupation of the owner was as a landscaper, and if you'll notice that
Oh,
they always are much more heavy on the landscape.
yes, no, the landscape of that building is very nice. I don't have a complaint on that or a concern on that. So, one other question that seems to be going around in general, I've noticed that the lights that will be on the building will be the yellow colored lights, because it looks like they upgraded the lights on the existing buildings, and they're the bright white lights that do not meet town code. So I would hope that when they're installing these lights on that meet town code, that there should be switching out the ones that were replaced over there.
I can only speak to the current plan. the
Okay.
lighting plan. That would be per the town code,
All right.
yellow.
So they should be the
Type
yellow
lighting.
ones there too. Okay. All right.
Saying high pressure sodium.
Yeah,
Or,
or I know the LED.
LED.
Yeah, I know the yellow, but the color of the yellow, so.
Yes.
So, Ron, will there
All
be
right, cool.
sufficient?
Thank you.
Will there be sufficient room for 2 cars to come to the gate? Because if 2 vehicles want to enter in, where it looks like it's directly across, the entrance is directly across from Backacre Circle. So if someone is sitting there at the gate and someone else comes down and they want to go where that person is as well, then it's going to block the turning from Backacre. So is
There's
there
enough for 2 vehicles to stack there,
Okay,
and the driveway's wide enough so that if you can have vehicles passing,
okay.
coming
It
up.
wouldn't, you don't see it impacting any left turns onto Century?
No.
Sorry, one more question. Since the Cube Smart Storage prepped all this for the questions here. I guess the fencing facing, the type of fencing that will be there, the fencing that will be facing Century Drive, will it match the existing, what I want to call the white metal stockade fencing?
Correct. Correct.
Okay. Yes. I think that answers all my questions. Oh, and sorry, Ron. Controlled access to keypad and stuff like
Yes.
existing there? Okay.
Just like the other 2 entrances.
Okay.
They have one next to Health Unlimited and Current are all coded X.
All right, cool. Thank you, sir.
Any other questions? Any questions from the public?
My only other thing I just wanted to add was, I think this is an independent site, so you won't be able to get from any of the other mini storages to the site. So it's not like you have an access point. There's only one access point for just these buildings.
Okay.
Yeah, and the one property next to Health Unlimited is also, isolated from the one across the street. So you have 3 island properties.
I see no other questions. Is there a motion to recommend approval?
I'll move to recommend approval of the concept plan for Lot 7, Phase 2 of the Twin Arch Industrial Subdivision, subject to all town and county comments being addressed prior to final site plan approval, if that's granted.
Is there a second?
Sorry, I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded that we recommend approval of the concept plan for site plan for Lot 7, Phase 2 of the Twin Arch Industrial Subdivision, subject to all town and county comments being addressed prior to the final site plan approval. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Approval.
And Bill, to your point, I will look for that traffic impact study from the Britain Manor. And I don't know if, Ron, if you have access to it, if you forward it to me, I appreciate it.
Yeah, because every new business, every new 9 cars adds on to the last 9 cars and the prior 5.
All right.
cars, and the prior 20 cars.
We now go into new business. Start with the recommendation for the division of the allocation categories. This is for introduction and recommendation to the town council. Barney, would you like to present this?
Sure. So just like every 2 years since we started this eight years ago or so, we have to redo our capacity yields and then the division allocation categories for our available water and sewer. This year, we've noticed some extra usage coming out of some of the categories, and looking at some planned developments, we might need to move some of the water over to a few categories. So the net result is that we're taking from the priority area, which is where we had most of it stored, and move it over to remember where we moved it. So I think we bumped up section 10, category 10 and category 12, if I remember correctly. Nope, sorry. Category 6,
I was gonna say
7, and
6,
9.
Yeah.
We're adding 2,000 to non-mixed residential, 3,000 to non-mixed commercial, and 7,000 to strictly industrial use. We still have capacity in the redevelopment and in the expansion of existing commercial.
What did you say number 6 was? How much more?
2,000.
1,000? And the reason being for this was because we're looking kind of outside and there's possible development coming into those areas.
Correct, yes.
How are we doing with the priority areas? Are we getting any requests in those priority areas for development?
So in the past, actually, ever since this started, the last 3 cycles, we've reduced that amount because we're really getting nothing coming into the priority area at, again, since this started. Nothing that has needed extra water. So do you have a copy of the
Yeah,
11
I
by
got it.
17 sheet?
Yep.
You can look down category number 1. We started with 40,000, and we've subtracted 3 times from that.
We sure have.
When Ross built their office, that took 31 gallons. That is the only thing that's come out of this. There's other things that have been talked about, but nothing's taken that water yet.
Any questions?
Hey, Barney, what, is it on this list that where you're saying where you're adding the extra water to it, or can you?
So actually, if you look at line, right below line 35, it's the 2022 redivision among allocation
Okay.
categories. You see it's a subtraction of 12,000.
And then to the right is 2, 3, and 7.
You got it.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
Mhm.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
just to clarify the process here from our code, this is informational only in this meeting.
Okay.
It's in your March meeting after due notice and a public hearing and due consideration of the town engineer's recommendations that the planning commission would approve a recommendation to be transmitted to the town council for its April meeting.
So we're just, right, so we have one more month to look at
Thank you
this.
for that clarification.
I'll get that in the paper tomorrow. Right?
Thank you, John.
Got all the questions? All right.
I don't, does anyone have any questions from the community, from the public? Seeing none, thank you, Barney. We'll
Thanks,
see you
Barney.
March.
Chair. It's John. So in respect of everybody else's time here, I'd like to see if we can move 1301 or 1302, right? To the next item in the agenda, because I think that's what most of the people in the public are here for.
Is that okay with the,
Does it matter if we review the proposed neighborhood professional first? Or,
We could do that.
well, I think we need to do that first, yes, but then after that, then we would move the rezoning request. The first one would be the
I mean, yeah, that's fine.
1302.
I
Yeah.
just, yeah.
Okay, so our next item is the ordinance 2022-5, the proposed changes to the NP district. This is for introduction and recommendation to the town council. So this is the same way that we just did for,
And that's where actually.
or we actually give a recommendation to go to town council on this.
Yeah, that's one.
Right, because we've already heard this. Okay, thank you. Yeah. We're at the 90-day mark, I think. All righty. Tom, would you like to speak to this ordinance, please?
Remember that there were two ordinances, one of which really was formally recommended and created basically by the Planning Commission on the CC district. That is before the town council. I think will be a subject of public hearing in April and on the agenda for approval. It did not come back to planning. Though I think the last time we were together, the consensus was this one shouldn't come back. When we looked at it more deeply, although apparently well discussed at a work session, at a workshop, I think relative to the master plan, there really had been no formal recommendation from the Planning Commission. Hence, from notes that Councilman Munder was kind of provide me, I went ahead and prepared what you have in front of you. It was introduced to the town council and thereupon, as usual, referred here for your review and recommendation to the town council. It was referred 2/7/22, so you have some time, but you know, it's up to you all to review at this point in time. I think, if I'm not mistaken, the town council may have put this on the agenda for a public hearing at its next meeting with the idea that if you're still not done with it, they'll just pull the public hearing, if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken.
it's pending. I'm gonna, depending on what happens here tonight, I'll be letting Holly know tomorrow morning.
I do have one question. It's the
First page.
first page, and it seems to be referring to the CC zone rather than the, because it's,
Okay.
Let's see where.
so I don't know if it just got, I mean, they both, in the title, it refers to CC and NP, but it's talking about the CC zone and the inconsistency with, you know, the CC zone backing up to residential. So I don't know if the page got switched, or if you see what I mean.
The third one down?
I think it's in 3 paragraphs, isn't it?
Now you can use CC zone in both cases.
The first, third, and 7th.
Well, I think maybe it's written a little confusing. I'm trying to say that for the NP zone, and maybe I'm not picking up where you're referring to.
Okay.
All this is trying to say is that in the NP zone, you do impose a buffer by code. All this third paragraph, whereas is it doesn't make sense to not also have it in a more intensive zone, the CC zone.
Right.
So.
Okay.
Thank
I
you.
mean, it's not really part of the ordinance, so it doesn't really matter. It's like-
I can clarify.
Okay.
Okay.
I mean, since we have a bit of breathing room, does it make sense to give ourselves more time until our next meeting to finalize this?
Just to look over
Yeah.
and come back.
We could.
We could.
Since we had quite a bit, we had a lot
Yeah.
of stack.
So keeping that in mind, there are some requests for people to go into the NP zone, rezone their homes, so they would go in under the old one. Would then they,
No, because the master plan isn't gonna be finalized till it's finalized and signed off
correct,
on.
I'm
So, no,
sorry,
it's fine.
I'm overthinking, thank you.
Yeah.
I would like, yes, to look at it a little bit more.
Okay, well then let's just continue.
So we're
let's
gonna
move this to
postpone
our
this to our March meeting.
Agenda for March.
There's one less public hearing. Yes, sir.
Question here, because I'm Tom Neff, I live at 1110.
You have to come up here, Mr. Neff, yes. Because we have to have everything of record, and it's being recorded. We'd like to hear your lovely voice. I know, but we'd love to hear your lovely voice.
I don't know whether it's time to speak or not before it's passed on.
Kick the
I'm
bucket.
Tom Neff, 1110 South Main Street. If you don't know where my house is, look right over there. I've lived here since 74, off and on all my life. I saw this, my house isn't in this proposal, but it's right next door to me. And I've talked to the people, to the occupants, and I'd like it to be postponed, which it sounds like what you're doing. And I'd like to, I don't know how to get the residents in on learning about it. So just say my house was in that area and I became NP, how would that affect my taxes? I'm Frederick County, not Carroll County, Frederick County. So does whoever know that would this increase my taxes? And then how did this area become a designated change to NP? It's close to me. Can somebody make a decision that next my property is designated? And I can't understand why. I haven't met people, shame on me, how they're doing it, because if it's a professional building like the Loman property on the corner, they could get more money for the property and one of
move or whatever. But,
So Tom, I hate to interrupt, but we're actually looking at the actual ordinance for NP. We're not discussing.
We're not talking about the rezoning right now.
We're just talking about the ordinance itself.
well, that's a good one to talk about.
Yeah,
Oh,
but
I thought we
that's not-
decided that we were postponing the ordinance itself.
Can come back later.
Yes.
You can come back up, Tom, when we start talking about the rezoning. That's all right, that's okay.
I thought we were too. I thought we moved on from the ordinance.
Well, we were, but he,
We hadn't, yeah, that whole thing.
so we're done with the ordinance.
So now we can come back up.
Yes, sir?
I just have one quick question on that.
You have to come to the microphone, sir, please.
Name and address, please.
My name is Bill Ransohoff. I'm at 1208 South Main Street. In what's now D4, you're taking out the detached accessory building with not over 500 square feet. Is the use is permitted?
That's why we're waiting until next month to discuss this.
So what do you have to ask about it,
So
sir?
then you're adding number 7 in the new E. That's a prohibited use for detached accessory buildings with not over 500 square feet, same language, and I don't think you mean that. Like if I had 1,000-foot building there, then that would be okay as a prohibited use. I just don't think you mean that.
Well, it would be a special exception at that point, so it would have to come in for, no, okay, I'm sorry.
But it's
I
a
see
smaller
F.
building is prohibited.
For the
I can
uses.
understand why a smaller building would be allowed.
The larger than 5.
They're restricted. But then you switch it to, you move that to a prohibited use.
No, it's saying that as long as it's below 500 square feet, 500 feet or below, it's not prohibited. Right, detached accessory buildings,
It says the following
Not
uses
over-
are prohibited.
All right, we're not actually discussing this right now, are we, Roxanne?
Well, yeah.
Correct. No, because we're going to discuss it on Monday. We still have one more month.
But it is confusing.
That's a good point. We'll revisit it.
Yes,
So
and
your,
we will look at
your
that.
point, yeah, but that's right.
back
That's good that
next
you
month.
pointed that
Yeah.
out, so that's
Yeah.
good.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
so we're moving on to the rezoning request now.
Yes.
Yeah, can I say something? It's related to what Mr. Neff was saying, actually.
Well, let me introduce this and go over it, and then you can say what you have to say. So we're talking about the rezoning request for 1302 North Main Street. The owners of this property are John and Martina Hatley. Martina is a member of the commission. She is now going to leave the dais. She is going to leave the room. Because,
Yes, that's what she should do.
absolutely. Ma-
South Main.
South Main, 1302 South Main Street.
We're changing, Lynn, you came in a little late. We're adjusting the alignment here because most of the citizens here are for 1302.
I assume that people did sign in on the sign-in sheet. So Barney, would you please go get the sign-in sheet so I can have it? I will call your name. We will give you 2 minutes to discuss what you have to discuss. I ask that if someone has made the point that you're going to make, I would appreciate it if you wouldn't come back up and make the same point. We do have a lot to discuss this evening. What we will do is,
Because we have 3, 4 of these rezoning requests.
and John, I'm going to ask you to please time the people when they come up.
You got your stopwatch right here.
All right. I will first have you present the rezoning request.
Excuse me.
Then we'll have the, is there a representative for the owner here? Okay.
So again, this request came in from the applicant at 1302 South Main to rezone their property to NP. Currently, the zoning of the property is RE. It is abutted to the south of the property by the plastic surgeon office that is adjacent to this property, and it's zoned NP. They were requesting it during the 2023 master plan to rezone their property. And I do want to say, when I was out there putting the signage on the property, I was approached by 2 other residents on the same side of the street, requesting as well rezoning to their property to NP. I also put a letter on your stations there that this applicant, or one of the applicants for those homes adjacent to 1302, had back in 10 years ago requested to be rezoned to NP. And I think we're denied for whatever reason. So I'm not sure if they're here tonight, they might speak on their behalf with the rezoning of their properties as well. And again, as you look, I have up on the monitor, you can see where the one that currently is being requesting NP is this RE right here, which is 1302. And again, the lot line adjustment has to be done. Your plan or your paperwork shows the lot line shown on the fence line. There was an amendment to the plan. But again, this parcel to the north and this parcel to the north had requested NP as well when I was putting their sign up. They missed the application time for request. That's now closed. But I said that I would mention it to the Planning Commission about their request, and I also asked them to come and voice their questions and concerns and the request to rezone their property.
Okay, so the applicant is requesting rezoning.
The request is to go to NP from RE. And they do abut an R7 development to the rear of the property. Again, if you look to the east side of Main Street, you can see where the Walmart facility is here. They had an access, a portion of their property accesses all the way out to, or abuts to South Main Street. And again, you have LC directly across the street as well. This is the Verizon building.
I was going to say, is that Verizon?
Right, that's Verizon. And if you look to the north as well on the east side of South Main, you can notice that these parcels here are currently NP as well. I think this got turned to NP when the Walmart property came in and got rezoned, possibly, or when it got built. So again, it's still abutting. Again, let's stick to the parcel in question. So this is currently the one that's been, is in front of you, 1302 South Main, and they're requesting to go to NP, which is currently the veterinarians. I think it's a Mr. Brown that lives here. I'm not positive. Again,
right.
What's that again? Baker. Excuse me. I'm sorry, Mr. Baker. And again, the plastic surgeon as well here. And then again, 1302 South Main.
Okay, so the 1302 is the RE, and then next to them is the spa going towards the light. You're going the wrong way.
I'm sorry.
Towards the light, and then that's Colwell, correct? Colwell Drive.
Yes.
Then the next is NP.
This is all
That's
NP.
Mr. Baker's.
Yeah, this is Mr. Baker, and then
well, we're not going to talk about
not talking
these
about
right
him.
now.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
So we're just talking about 1302. And again, I did want to bring to you these 2 residents as well, and I think they're here tonight to speak on their behalf.
Okay, well, we have this thing, so if they,
Yeah.
go ahead.
It's up to 1302. What do they back up to?
Again, so currently they have an R7 subdivision that's back here.
That's there. Okay. And then what's next to them going north?
There's another RE residence,
Right.
which is one of the big houses along South Main
Okay.
that have the big trees in front of it.
Right.
And then this is, I think, a brick house is the, I think it's like 1208 possibly.
John, I'll say this for context.
1206, thank you.
it would be instructive to go back and see the dates of when we changed zoning on these properties. I don't know if it goes as far back as when we were working on the 2013 master plan, but
Are you talking about these parcels here?
these parcels, and we also had applications, we had requests in the area of the post office and so forth over there.
I remember the spa, that we did the spa.
And we had a concern in both cases of creeping development. We were concerned about how far up, it was appropriate for that kind of development that would shift from residential to the opportunity for some form of commercial to come up into the predominantly residential area. That was a concern. And, that opinion can change over time. But,
Well, again, if you look at the map, you look directly across the street and you have a CC zone property. You also have an LC zone property directly across the street from 1302. And again, I mean, this is not my decision to make. I gave a recommendation.
Right.
Well, that's why I wanted to talk about this before you vote on, I don't even know if we're voting, but it's like the actual, so what is the purpose of neighborhood professional? And, it says in the current code, and actually this person who wrote the email in 2013 said it very well. Like, they explained how, I think it was med spa. It was a perfect, the med spa. It was the perfect property to do this because it had been vacant and they couldn't sell it as a residence. So, and it was next to other residential. So it was the exact type of building that you want to become neighborhood professional because they wanted to use it as a business. And I think there's a difference between, properties that can't be used or not being used as residences that are zoned residential, and to become NP rather than someone just to upzone their property so that they can then sell it for a higher price unless they're actually planning to use it. Like Dr. Schwartz and Dr. Williamson, all those folks in the last master plan, it made perfect sense that we would we would make those neighborhood professional because they were sitting there and they were empty. And it made perfect sense what we would do for Dr. Schwartz's property. But, and exactly, and also what the med spa folks have been wanting us to do that we decided not to let them. You decided that they would bring some new plan. It's like they got the neighborhood professional, and for the past few years, they've been complaining to you and saying, well, now we want limited commercial because we don't have enough parking. And that's another thing that you cannot do. When you get a zone like neighborhood professional, you can't use what you got from that zone, and then say, oh, now I want a higher zone because now this isn't enough. That's specifically in the statute, and I don't think we've taken that out in the proposed changes. So I just think that people need to remember what the purpose of this is. And that's what I was saying. Mr. Neff is saying, like, how far, I don't know what his view of it is, but how far is this going to go? And what is the actual purpose? So it keeps going, and then do the other people feel pressured? It's like, well, they've got it, and then this is going to happen, then maybe I should try to get it. But if you read the
I'm not
read
the
the ordinance, I don't think
Not the
that
applicant.
I'm just saying, if you read the ordinance, I don't think that that's the purpose of the ordinance. I think it's very clear, actually, that that's not the purpose, just to.
Can we hear from the applicant, please? Mr. Hatley?
You can sit at the table if you'd like, that's fine.
I think it's important, have context.
Good evening, everybody.
Hi, okay, let's let him talk, please.
John Hatley, and I'm, my wife Martina and I own the property at 1302 South Main Street. So we moved to Mount Airy in 2004, and we've witnessed a lot of change since we've moved here, most of it positive. However, there has been change, and one of the changes was, I think back in 2013, where the Medi Spa became our neighbor, which has been great, actually. I mean, they've been a great neighbor, and we have a great relationship with the owner, Helene, Dr. Cappuccino, and their wonderful staff. So nothing but good things to say. So our experience has been great. However, I mean, I just would like to, request that the Planning Commission just consider the change that has taken place since we've moved in 2004. There is a neighborhood professional right next to us, so we're right next to the Medi-Spa. Right behind the Medi-Spa has been zoned neighborhood professional as well. We sit right across from the Verizon building, which is limited commercial, as has been noted. There's the community commercial parcel of land that sits in between the Brightwells, which they're neighborhood professional as well, which they're diagonal to us across the street. So this, and with all due respect, this isn't a matter of trying to profit, right? It's just what's the right thing to do here, given the change that's been taking place in our neighborhood. And we believe that the right thing to do would be not only to rezone 1302 to neighborhood professional, but we're supportive of taking that potentially down to Grimes Court as well. So, I would just urge we kindly request that the commission consider our petition for changing to neighborhood professional, rezoning to neighborhood professional. I don't know. I mean, would a family, come in and want to, move in where we are, given, the commercial aspects around us, even though, like I said, it's been a tremendous experience with having Helene and her business next to us, right? But I don't know. And so just given all that, I would just like to, request that the commission to take into consideration all of the facts and everything related to our current situation. So
can I, no, don't go.
Okay.
So do you still want to live there?
Yes, we have no desire. So we have our youngest daughter is a freshman at Linganore High School, and so we plan to be in Mount Airy, for another 4 years at least. We love the town. We've thoroughly enjoyed living here. We have no desire to move. We just believe that given all of the change that's happened, and that this is the right thing to do, and that's why we're requesting it. It's not about looking to profit or in the short term or anything like that.
I wasn't making any
accusation,
but I'm just curious, like if you're not planning to move, and I understand where you are and you're surrounded, but you're still going to be a residence,
yes,
same place, surrounded by you're surrounded by. So how is it going to help you, I guess, is my question.
I mean, so obviously every 10 years, right, you guys go through, this process, right? So timing wise, it just feels like, because again, the Medi-Spa, I believe, and Helene's here to kind of keep me honest, I think it was around 2013 when, she opened her doors as our neighbor. So from a timing perspective, it just feels like this would be the right time to come forward and make such a request of the Planning Commission. And that's why I'm here. And that's just the honest truth.
All right,
so,
thank you.
Okay, thanks.
I have a question.
sure, Scott.
So let's say that the block of houses are rezoned, right? And you're not starting a business, it's neighborhood professional, and you're not starting a business. But what if your neighbor to the north had another business? Would you be comfortable being surrounded by multiple businesses?
Yeah, so, I mean, Scott, our experience is honestly, the Medi-Spa opening up, coming in, because the property right next to us was deteriorating, right? It was in bad shape.
Right.
And so, having a small business like Helene's come in has been great. And our experience with her and the entire staff there has been wonderful. So I have no reason to think, and that would be any different, right?
Right.
So I know people have these conceptions about, I don't want a business right next to me, but
No.
honestly, my experience would, you know, is otherwise, right?
Yeah,
So I have
I
nothing
see
to, nothing but good things to say.
No, I see the world the same way with, you know, professional landscaping and upkept buildings. I mean, a lot of folks don't take care of their houses the way the businesses take care of their properties because they're businesses. I was just wondering if somebody were to put a business on the north and you had one to the south, whether you would feel encroached and wish that maybe that didn't happen.
I would say, Scott, no. I mean, you know, if somebody, you know, I mean, if Bill and Laura, you know, I mean, I think we're all supportive of each other. They're going to have their chance to speak, but I would have no issue with it. And I think that, you know, the thing is, I mean, I'm working from home right now because I work for the government. So right now I'm still on a telework status. And again, you never know what the future is going to bring. So we're just trying to be proactive here, and we're just trying to, what we believe is to do the right thing for, you know, the change that's taken place in the town. I don't think we should be afraid of change. I think we should embrace it. And, you know, so I don't want to take up any more of your time. I want to allow everybody else to say some words as well, but.
No, thanks.
Thank you. Does anybody have any other questions? If not, I'm going to go to the sign-in sheet. The first person is Don Brightwell. Don't forget, when you come up, to state your name.
Yeah, you can go there.
Yes, sir.
Don Brightwell, 1205 South Main Street. Beside the brown mark there on the general commercial. And one thing I would like to straighten out, the line on this 1302 is out of line because I actually signed the paperwork or sold that strip, and that changed into a straight line back to an old map you had.
You just shrunk your property. You just lost property.
As far as the conditions change out there on the ground zero, Walmart behind me, Verizon beside me, good neighbors. Spas never caused a problem whatsoever. Everything looks good, stays good. All the properties are well maintained. I like to see that. We try to do our best to keep everything steady on our side. I would like to see the whole thing go there for professional all the way up to Grimes Court. I'm in full support of your staff's recommendations on that.
Okay, thank you.
Can you point out Grimes Court?
Yeah, it's the one where you see the little.
I'm asking John because he's got the thing. Okay, so that's Grimes Court, and then
Correct.
And then nobody else after that gets to be named
Correct.
professional,
That
right?
would be the stuff.
Isn't that a?
I do have one more comment. To answer Tom's question, when this was all done back when we changed over in 98 or 99 or something, there's no change to the taxes until the actual business goes in effect.
Okay, I'm not taxed, but you'd have to talk to this town. I don't do taxes. The Blankerts have gone, they were at Century Drive. Barney, do you want to speak, or are you done? Okay. Larry Hushhour? You're good. Cheryl and Tom Neff? Yes, sir. You get your exercise when you. Yes.
He was thinking it was like Donahue. We bring the mic to you.
1110 South Main Street, you heard most of my spiel. Actually, I haven't met you, I'm sorry, and I don't believe what you're saying. And the reason is that I'm going to be there, quote, unquote, quote, I'm going to be there until my daughter graduates, but it's certainly going to be easier that if you're a neighborhood professional, you'll get more for your property, and the property will be more sellable than if it's neighborhood professional. but I didn't understand how you got your neighbor, got them, Mel and Billy, and around on Grimes Court, Pat, how they're in the neighborhood profession too. 10 years, I'm sure if I'll be around, 10 years, are you gonna come up the street? Is because you're doing this, are you gonna come up the street? I mean, we're on the other side of the street, Donnie and Darla German, but anyway, that's my concern now. More, I understand what you're doing, you know, and if I wasn't gonna die at 11, I would consider the same thing.
Can you show us your property, Mr. Neff?
Are you right here?
Right there.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it's the one with the big pine tree that has the Y, north side of Grimes Court.
Okay,
Thank you.
got it.
My concern.
Thank you.
Okay, Hannah's not here to speak on this.
So we still have,
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, go ahead. It's both of you. I'm sorry.
Similarly, ask us not to repeat something, but my main concern is that it is creeping up. And, yeah, I know the spa, I go to the spa, and I like it, but it's becoming not a neighborhood anymore, and that's my main concern, is that the commercial is gonna keep growing and growing. And at least while we're alive, I'd rather not see that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
John Hatley spoke. Mark? I'm just going down the list because there's no check if you want to talk or not, so. Bill and Laura, is it Ranzelhoff? One of you can talk and then the other, it's fine.
My emails actually got to Laura and Darian Ranzelhoff, Lovely. My emails actually got entered into the record. I know you guys have tons of stuff to read, but I'd actually like to take a second and read it, if that's okay with you.
Can you lower the microphone?
Yeah. You can use your 2 minutes however you want to.
So, first I just wanted to quickly read our letter from 2013. And I live on, right next to John and Martina, right across from the brown Walmart strip. So I'm directly across from Walmart. And then also across from the neighborhood professional lot, Mr. Brightwell. It goes all the way up. So, in 2013, and I apologize, we missed the application. I thought it was 2013 is my date of my letter. I wrote a letter. We live on the west side of South Main Street on the same block, 2 doors down from the Men's Spa. At the time we moved into our house, the east side of South Main Street across the street was with the exception of Verizon building, residential homes all the way down to the last lot on the corner of Main Street and Ridgewood Boulevard. Those homes have subsequently been replaced by 2 commercial retail parks. So all of that ground where the Caltoy and the Dunkin' Donuts drive-through, that was all homes.
Right, right.
So we moved from an urban area. We like being around, we don't mind, but when you talk about creep, I mean, it's definitely a change. We went on to request, we all 3 of us did at that point, the Hatleys and us and the former owners of Billy and Melissa's property. We all wrote letters requesting that we be rezoned to neighborhood professional. And it was not approved. There's some question if we asked to be in the master plan versus asking to be rezoned. I think we asked it to be a part of the master plan instead of asking for it to be officially rezoned. But at any rate, we had no intention of moving at that point, and we didn't. We're still here. We still have no intention of moving. So my current letter this year, and I didn't read the whole one from last time, we're year, the homes across the street have become Main Street Park and Mount Airy and Dunkin' Donuts drive-through. On our side of the street where homes once stood, we now have 3 successful local businesses, the Nettie Spot, Barbecue, and Mount Airy Bed. Across the street to our left is a home that's zoned neighborhood professional. It's been zoned this way for at least 20 years and remains a residence. The property directly across the street from us is owned by Walmart Corp. To the right is a property owned by Verizon. Then the 2 shopping plazas, then the Bank of America. Currently, the zoning on our block is split. It's our understanding that one of the purposes of the 10-year review is to address zoning anomalies that have occurred during the development of the town. In light of the other development that has occurred around us, the zoning and development of both across the street and on our side of the street and the nearby properties under review, it's time that our property should be rezoned as neighborhood professional. In addition to the letter below, we attended several meetings in 2013 and let them know we had expected neighborhood professionals to be proposed by the town in the 2013 master plan. We would not oppose NP zoning our block and had no plans to restart it.
Okay. So John, I have a question. So having missed the application for the rezoning, when's the next time that that can be considered?
Well, again, so outside of the master plan, I mean, they could try to come in and say there was a mistake in zoning or a drastic change in the neighborhood,
Right.
which would be neither of those.
Right.
So trying to do it through the application process, they wouldn't even move forward because they don't meet any of the requirements.
Right.
I don't think they would meet the requirements. So really, it only is an opportunity during the master plan review process for them as a citizen of a property to request a rezoning. And then it falls to you. You guys make a recommendation back to the town council.
But that's been missed, right? The
Well-
application for this part of the
Well,
master.
because they are adjoining to an existing application, I was bringing it in front of you as possibly an addition to
Okay.
the request because of being.
It was also our thinking and our rationale last time when we synced up rezonings with the master plan update, that it was more holistic. If you look at all of the requests and how that may affect the entire town, it's simply a better context.
And it's required under the land use.
So
code.
would the property north of their property be also tagged onto that request?
So 1302, and then these 2 properties here, when I was putting the sign up, ask about rezoning 10P as well.
What about the property right before Ryan?
This one here.
Yeah.
So I think this parcel here is actually owned by this parcel. It was
That's a vacant lot.
yeah, so
That's
I'm
vacant.
saying they're owned by this person, I think.
Oh,
They're both owned by that same people.
okay.
And then this is a separate ranch or house. So, I mean, the thing to think about is if these do get rezoned to NP, you have to be able to support the parking on the property for whatever business were to go in there. So you have to really think about that. Like 1302, they have a very large parcel in the rear that could be a parking lot. You know, when you get into here, this might have to become the parking lot for this parcel. This parcel here is very narrow. They would probably have to remove this building in the rear of their property to be able to support the parking that would be for whatever the square footage of the existing home that's there, which are fairly large.
It would depend on what they put in there as neighborhood
Correct, the
professional.
use would also dictate that.
I've got a point of order. I believe we've gone off the application for 1302 right now and talking about people's property that have not submitted the proper application for it. So can we settle
Let me,
on what we're doing
let me address
1302
the,
first?
can we address the point of order as well?
Yeah.
When you do a master plan like John is talking about, sometimes you see an area like something like this that is an anomaly, and you try to include those properties because it makes sense. That's why we're doing that. So it is essentially talking about this property, but we will, and I'm asking people to talk, so that's why we're there. So,
And it was addressing Mr.
yeah.
Neff's concern too.
so I thank you for reading the letter.
Thank you.
Bill, do you want to say anything, or did she say it all?
question about, well, are you gonna sell or are you gonna put in business and stuff like that. So the house is now the money spot. It's, it's out of the market for like 2 or 3 years, right?
Right, it was a perfect use for neighborhood professional, exactly.
Why make the property owner wait until that happens, right? Why make us wait? If we put it on the market and that would have happened, and then say, well, it's been on the market now for 2 years.
I was just, what I was doing was I was explaining what the code actually says and what the ordinance actually says. And so I wasn't talking about your specific property or whatever. I was saying, this is what the ordinance says is the purpose of it. And therefore, so that's a different thing than what you're talking about.
I thought you asked John that.
Because I asked John because he was sitting up here and he was saying that we should grant it for his particular property. So I was curious why he thought we should. So yes, I did direct that question to him for that reason. Yes.
So from my standpoint, that would be my answer. Why make it?
Okay. Mr. and Ms. Palmer?
Which one is your house, please?
6 Grand Court.
Is that this house here?
Yes.
Okay.
Their 4-year daughter in high school, I think after 4 years, they'll probably turn around and sell their house and move someplace else. So I think that they're looking to get more money for their property when they decide to sell it. That's what they want to do. My house, I don't know.
Okay, thank you. Steve Demoter? Okay. All right. Gary Fry, were you just signing in? Okay. Carl, I don't need to talk to you. And Lynn, you were just signing in as well? Does anyone else have any comments? Yes, ma'am. Yes, yes.
That knows our office, we always keep in great shape. Yes, we did ask for more parking, and you said no, so that was that.
Yeah, we told you to come and put in a amended whatever.
Right, amended.
No, I'm just saying, I see your point where you're coming that, hey, when is this gonna end?
Right.
But if you look at the street, it is Main Street. If you look at most towns, Main Street is a part of a town. I mean, it doesn't have to be commercial, but it can be a building like mine. I have neighbors, and I've called before the town, hey, my neighbor has a local out front, literally, anybody can take it. And you guys said, we can't do anything about it, because he's not commercialized, he's not used personal property, he could do what he wants. So you have more regulations over us in the town if you do the neighborhood professional. And whether he wants to do it for a personal reason, I don't think it has anything to do with your decision. You have to do is the best thing for the town. And please remember, you generate more revenue when you have these small businesses. How many people come to us and say, where do I eat lunch? I've never been here. We are bringing people in from Montgomery County. We're bringing people in from Howard County, and they're getting to know our town. And they're actually buying stuff downtown at the jewelry store and at the restaurants. So I don't think it's going to hurt our town. I truly think it's going to help our town to have just a few stores or, neighborhood professional up to Grimes Court. And I agree with the gentleman, past Grimes Court, okay, well, that can stay for now residential, but I see no reason before Grimes Court that it just makes sense.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair, I just have a question regarding rezoning of the other property.
Yeah.
Sorry. Hey, John, can you focus on the vacant corner at Grimes Court in South Main? Is the owner of that property here?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I'm just questioning, okay, I just want to make sure if I have any questions for you. John, if that whole block is neighborhood professional, outside of a parking on that vacant lot, would it be, they couldn't build a building to it, right? Add a
It'd be
building?
very difficult, probably, once to try to meet all the setback requirements, it'd be very difficult to build a building there.
Okay, so it's really, and that's what I'm saying, plus we're doing the, any proposed changes too, that might limit what can go there. Okay, that's what I was wondering too, if it's vacant or because the way I understand neighborhood professional, you kind of hopefully will be able to use the existing building.
That's the intention.
Okay, all right.
Which they own the house next to it.
What was that?
They own the house next to it.
Right, they own this house.
They own that house.
Oh, yeah, I figured that, yeah, I know that, I just wanted to make sure that the vacant property would still kind of stay vacant, so, or potentially.
Did you want to speak to this?
Thank you.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
I know, I'm.
Yeah, we can sign up to speak, but.
I'm sorry.
It'd be helpful to know your position.
Well, I went down through everybody. I must have missed you.
He didn't sign
No, he
in.
didn't sign up. He's the one person that didn't sign up.
No, you did not sign in.
He didn't do his job.
Those two pieces of property, and I guess our position is we have no plans of starting a business or anything, hopefully we'll be here forever, but, if the other properties are rezoning to a professional, and if I understand correctly, this is something that's only done every 10 years, so, it would make sense if 3 to 4 of them were done, and ours is included, but I didn't know if we missed the application date or whatever. But talking about that side lot, if we were, there's actually a driveway apron cut out on the drawings.
Yes, there is.
And I don't know if this is for another time, but would we be allowed to put a garage there, or would we have to subdivide to
I think we'd have to revisit that.
put those lots into one to have, I don't know what the BRLs and setbacks are.
Yeah, it's another time.
Yeah.
What's
Come
your
and talk to
address?
me.
What's your address?
1206.
All right, and so you're near Ms. Patty over here, who lives on Grimes.
Yeah.
Right.
But can you point out where,
Yeah.
is that's
it.
Patty's?
Yes.
Okay.
But if those plans for a garage would be, if we designate a neighborhood professional, would that somehow kill the attempt to build a garage there?
Well, again, you could come in and speak with me during the day.
Okay.
And we can talk about that. And I'd have to look at the setbacks exactly. Do you have a plot plan of your property? But again, we're getting off topic, but just come into the town hall and I'll meet with you and discuss it.
But like, I don't want to stop our neighbors from pursuing. I guess if they're, then we can. Somehow they built a business, or they sold and businesses came in. It would be difficult for us to sell as a single family. I'd be stuck there, surrounded by neighborhoods.
So I think, so it's good to hear everybody's position on this and where you stand.
Yep.
But, so tonight, we're only talking about that one parcel, but I'm glad that everyone came and told us what you were thinking, because it will help us in the master plan consideration.
And would we have to formally fill out some paperwork for this?
That's really up to the planning commission. Yeah, I mean, ultimately, they can decide to either put your properties in part of the rezoning or not. The application process is really closed. Really, it was at the end of the last year. We've been working on this for a year. So at one point, I have to draw a line in the sand, because if not, I'd be doing it 6 months from now when I had to be compiling all the information to get in front of them for them to give an approval or recommendation to town council. So it's a process. They could still hear your information and make a determination if they were to choose to go NP for this this one, maybe they choose to do all the other 3 parcels, not including, the young lady back there if she doesn't want to be in. But I don't have that control. That's their decision to make. Thank you.
I think on the paper that was submitted.
Please come to the microphone.
Can you come up?
I think it says 1208 parcels 1 and 2, and it should be their property that says parcels 1 and 2. In the documentation that you have.
Oh, and yours.
I see what you're saying. In the staff recommendation, you're saying. So you're saying parcels 1 and 2 is part of 1206?
Right.
Okay,
1208 is not across the street.
gotcha.
John, you have the recommendation here that 1302 South Main Street, along with the 4 parcels to the north up to Grimes Court, be considered for rezoning to NP.
Which is the
Yeah.
6 Grimes Court, which she doesn't want to be part of.
Correct.
And then again, the 1206 with the 2 parcels, and then 1208.
1208 Main Street and parcel 1 and 2?
No,
The parcel 1 and 2 should be,
1206.
okay.
But I think we have to pull back and talk about that with respect to the master plan.
Right.
Because, I mean,
I
there's one application, it's 1302.
Right.
So we probably should, if we have a favorable recommendation, it probably should be just for the applicant, right? And then maybe revisit the other parcels.
One of the workshops or something like that, possibly.
Right.
Again, you can still do a recommendation to the planning, or to the town council at that point in time, if you choose to.
Yes.
Right.
If you were to give it a favorable, then you could determine if you wanted to
Right.
include that corner
You
minus
mean
6
later,
Grimes
you mean
Court.
later, when we make the decision about this?
When we make the final recommendation to
Right.
the town council.
Right.
So at this point in time, really looking at 1302.
Right, and we're not making a decision on that right this minute either.
Possibly not.
I'm not ready to make a decision on this.
I mean, it's all part of the plan.
Yeah,
We don't-
I think-
We don't make decisions.
Yeah,
at this meeting.
I'm looking from you to a recommendation to the town council. If you want to table this one until another month,
I think we postpone it because we have to,
So John, like, what we did 10 years ago is, we didn't make a specific recommendation for every rezoning that came in. We, the planning commission, put it together in the plan, and the council looked at it once it was all put together. We didn't make an individual recommendation on each.
that's what we
Zoning.
did with the last 2 properties.
yeah.
If I'm doing it wrong, then I'm going to
I don't
compile a
think,
list of those
I wasn't on the
recommendations.
commission, so I
Which last
can't.
2 properties?
What's that?
Which last 2 properties?
We did,
Lot 73.
thank you.
But was that not part of the master plan, though?
Yes, it is.
Yes.
Oh, well, that just escaped me because it probably was not.
The vacant
not
lot that went from
significant.
residential to industrial.
Yeah, and it was
in
somewhere
Backacre
industrial.
Circle.
Yeah. So, like, I wasn't even realizing that.
But if I'm doing it improperly, please
Well,
let
we
me know.
certainly
So I wasn't on it. I'm going to yield to Tom. I thought that they did individual rezoning requests.
My recollection is that they did. I know they took applications for them.
Okay, they took
Now, I
applications.
wasn't at every single planning commission back then, but my impression is that, I mean, basically, there's sort of 2 functions, as I recall. One was to look at individual requests and say, okay, this would be a good place to, maybe extend a zone or something like that. And then once they had done that with the individual requests, then they went back and they looked at it and said, okay, given what we've done and given what pre-exists, where do you ultimately draw the line for an NP district?
Yeah.
Given what you've already kind of decided.
Right, we
All of
weren't
this is
making,
just,
we weren't sending like an individual property to council and then another individual property to
That's
council.
not what we're doing right
Oh,
That's what you were just saying you were.
no, we're gonna do all the rezonings and then compile it.
Oh, I thought you were just saying.
No, no.
the idea here is John needs to know what map he's putting in front of you.
Right.
You can start working off.
Right.
In
Exactly.
about 6 weeks or whatever it is.
So that's why I was confused, because I basically thought you were saying we were gonna make a recommendation right now on this one property.
No.
No.
You're giving me direction so I can then make a final version. I mean, I can bring all 12 properties for you to ask for rezoning, but I was trying to be
Sorry for the misunderstanding.
So the recommendation is to you to add it to a compartmentalization.
list,
There
to
we
then
go.
get it
That makes much
compiled,
more sense.
to bring it back to you for final.
Right,
Right.
okay. Well, let's do it. Let's,
Okay, so we need,
Recommendation.
so then put the motion, John, Scott.
yeah, so I'm gonna do it for 1302, not as written here with the other 4 parcels, right? Because.
Yeah, that's
we're
fine.
considering
Right.
consent. So, I make the motion that we recommend that parcel 1302 be considered for the rezoning to neighborhood professional on the list that John is compiling for the master plan. I don't know, does that make sense? For future consideration in the master plan.
Okay, you're recommending that 1302 South Main Street be rezoned to neighborhood professional along and to be put in the group of properties to be reconsidered for later, to be put into the master plan.
Exactly.
That works for me, then they need a second.
Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded. I'm not going to try to read that again because I did it off the cuff without it being in there. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Okay.
It'll make it on the list now. Thank you.
Arnie, you can go back out and get Martina wherever she is if she can come in now. She can come in from timeout.
I would prefer to do it exactly.
Can you just close that laptop? Please. Perfect, thank you.
I know.
Sorry for the misunderstanding.
I remember that we did individual ones and then came back. I was for some of it, yes.
John, we realized it made more sense, although you're gonna get.
John, Bill, stop. Talk into the microphone so we have it on record.
Okay. What we realized in the 2013 master plan update process was, number one, it made sense to go ahead and say everyone who wants to do a change, please submit it. Let us hear from you. Because we want to see how each of those and collectively they might change.
Right.
Okay, the big picture of Mount Airy and land use and so forth.
Right, not one by one.
Right. You have to look at them one by one, but then you also want to consider collectively. So what does this mean if we change a line between this type of zoning versus that type of zoning? Okay, and that was why we got into Hill Street, proceeding from 27 west, and we also got into South Main, coming up from, Bridgeville, and changing that. Yeah.
So again, you had an initial property and then it expanded farther up the road.
Yep.
So again, I'm just trying to compile a list so I can bring everything back to you and say, this is what we recommended. Do you still feel that way? Does something else have to change?
But
we also anticipated that something else would occur. That if you made these changes, if you did some slight or radical upzoning, it's going to create an appetite. And more than likely, there would, what you call it creep, or you simply say there will be other people that will want to look at it and consider it as a result. And indeed, that's the nature in that, and that's what occurs. So.
So of the next ones that are here, are they in areas where there could possibly be other groups, or are these all just individual rezones?
Yes,
Oh, sorry.
I'm asking John.
sure. No, I think that these two are going to be a lot, well, at least the 1011 East Ridgeville is going to be a cut and dry. I don't see anything else coming there. The 302 Woodersville, that's adjoined by the public school, so, and our park. So I don't see that being anybody looking to rezone that property. So first we'll go, if you want to go to 1011, I don't have video for this or aerials of it. There are packets out there if anybody wants to look at it.
I drove down there again the other day, but yep.
Did you see the sign? Okay.
Yep, the same old place.
Yeah. So again, this is, and I'm surprised Mike Dixon isn't here. Oh, Ron's going to speak on behalf of him. Do you want to come to the table or not? Do you want to let Ron speak for the owner, and then I'll put my position?
Yeah, Mike apologizes for not being here. He went to see BJ last week, and flights changed, so he's not getting back till 11 o'clock. He intended to be back
Okay.
earlier, but typical, as I'm finding out, airlines are quickly changing flights around and impacting schedules. I've got one coming up that I'm going to deal with. Anyway, 1011 East Ridgeville Boulevard is owned by Mike Dixon. It is a combination of industrial and residential zoning. The entrance into it is industrial from East Ridgeville Boulevard, and then the area itself, the main portion of the parcel is used as industrial. Currently, it is residential. It's been used in a residential use for probably over 50 years. I believe there was a carnival operator, Snyder, or something.
Yeah, Snyder, yeah.
That used that as their warehouse. And that was actually well before the zoning ordinance came into effect in the town of Mount Airy. So well over 50 years it's been used in industrial use. It is surrounded, and it was in use before the residential subdivision behind it was created by Jim Fry. So people, when they came in, knew that this parcel was going to be industrial use. And so what Mr. Dixon is requesting is that as part of this master plan, it's, I don't know whether you call it a zoning area or whatever, for over 50 years being used as an industrial use, that it simply be given its proper zoning as industrial, which matches the portion of the property near East Ridgeville Boulevard and the commercial area to the east.
I think actually a little bit of history, because Snyder's Amusements used to be the choice for the firemen. I just think they kind of like came to a gentleman's agreement and let them keep the stuff there. I mean, history, but that's a little history. So, John, I want to point this out, so make sure everybody knows it's this part here, and then this. It's outlined in blue. Anybody have any questions?
Talking about this, right?
Yes.
Doesn't this border residential on
It
one side?
does. Conestoga is right at the rear of this.
The two parcels to the rear of it.
But so does the edge to the north, though. I mean, it's.
Yep, the one building is almost on the property line, it looks like. So my concern is, and I think it's really a potential mapping error when they drafted the industrial. I think that whoever was drawing the colors on there extended it over. I think that this parcel really, it is supporting a commercial application for electrical business currently, but it wouldn't meet any of the setback requirements for that use. And if it has a special condition, or if it's been there for 100 years, I'm not sure. I feel like, again, I don't know the history about this property. I just feel like it was possibly a mapping error on whoever drew the purple line. Is my thinking. But again, if Mr. Thompson is speaking for Mr. Dixon, and he's saying that it's industrial, that's not my call to make. That's your call.
I'd probably agree with John. It was a mapping error. It should have been colored purple.
I'm saying it should have been yellow.
Nevertheless, because of its use, continued use.
Yeah, so has it been a special exception, or it's just like something that was grandfathered in because it's been there?
I don't know if it's ever been officially granted. I think it's just been in continual use before the zoning ordinance was enacted by the town of Mount Airy, which was in 1989.
Tom, I know that I know that the council is going to have a hearing on the proposed community commercial ordinance, but currently, what does industrial say? Do you know off the top of your head in terms of bordering?
Buffering?
Yeah, residential zone.
I could look. I don't recall it saying, I'm not sure it has a specific buffer.
I think it's supposed to have a 50
It does have a buffer
between residential and
of 50 feet
industrial.
if you're building on an industrial property. You need
I
to
think
have
we're
50
talking
feet.
about whether you need a different zone buffering.
Right, but I mean, that's the only criteria in that zoning code is the,
But what happened to the north of it, though? Like, bouncing up against the residential area there.
Right, that's.
Well, it's the way that it was. It's been forever. It was before, I mean, that.
So my problem is if it's being used as industrial, then it's violating its, zone use. And it's not, with it not
But it's
being-
not if it was there before the zone was done.
Right, so, right, exactly. So, if it's being used that way, then it either has to be rezoned to accommodate its current use, or we have to enforce that it be used as residential and get the industrial off of it, because it can't be both. So,
If it's a continuing use, it could be both.
well, but it's residential.
Yeah, but if it's a continuing use on the residential, been a continuing use.
It's a non-conforming use.
A non-conforming.
So it can do that on residential. What would happen though is if you rezone it industrial, then they can sell it or anything could happen, and the new company can come in and be industrial and then be even maybe more intensive industrial.
But there has to be a buffer of,
Then they would have to do the buffers and everything.
right, so there would be.
Yeah, but if it's industrial,
for an industrial lot, I believe, if they were making changes to the lot in terms of development, by development building, then they would have to conform to the zoning setbacks.
Right.
If it were changed to industrial and it were sold,
The code book is there.
it would then, it could still be used as an industrial building in a non-conforming, because it's a existing non-conforming.
Well, it's the same use, then you get into the
Industrial,
issue,
yeah,
what's
yes.
substitution and all of that, but assuming it's continual, that's correct. As long as the use continues, it doesn't abate for a year, basically.
Or any type of use that's listed under industrial.
It's not back there.
So, but,
Same use.
sorry, Tom.
So if it's, I don't know what it is, an electrical?
It's electrical.
It's generated, that's his place for the generators.
Yeah.
Does he do a lot of work there, or is it mostly a warehouse?
I think that's where they repair the home generators,
Okay.
the Generac generators that are installed.
Right, but if you were to take that business, sell it to somebody else who ran something else industrial, but it's a different business with different impacts, then I think that is a substitution of a non-conforming use. I mean,
Right.
but if he sold it and somebody used it exactly as it's being used now, then I think that the non-conforming use continues, though with a new owner.
Right, so anything could go in there, basically.
Right, but what if the non-conformed use it just gets decided to be something different than what it's currently being used for? Like, what if,
Petroleum storage area.
yeah, I mean, if it's still his property.
I think that's a substitution. And
Petroleum, that would require under the code a special exception anyway for petroleum use. But if somebody were to take the existing building and say, okay, I'm going to continue to use it for my business repair practice, I don't think that that necessarily is a substitution of use.
might be, but the larger point is kind of academic, but the larger point is that right now it's probably a non-conforming use, although there may be this mapping error, so put that aside for 1 second.
What are the parameters, I mean, when it comes to the non-conformed use, what are the bounds of that, I mean,
Well, in general terms, a non-conforming use is disfavored, and so typically you have provisions in your code, and we do. I don't have memorized, but, when you substitute, it's supposed to lessen, right?
Right.
So you've got to go
To the lesser.
exception and show that the impact's less if you're going to do a different type of industrial business or non-conforming business. You get to keep going with what you got, as long as that keeps going, but if you're gonna switch it, then it's gotta reduce. If you abate any use for a year, it's gone. And now it can only be used residentially, right?
so, Mr. Thompson, sorry, Tom. So, Mr. Thompson, so if we're happy doing what we're doing on that property, why does it need to change?
Right.
Well, Mr. Dixon would have to answer that. I think that he just said it's, in his perception, it was probably a mapping error, that if it was used as industrial use before the zoning code, that it should have been coded in as industrial, particularly if it was being used as an industrial use before there was any residential surrounding it.
Does he own the property to the west? Because it looks like they're cross-using between those two parcels. So I just wonder, it looks like the parcel to the
That parcel to the
west, to the left as you're looking,
dangling out there.
looks to be interconnected to this lot, but maybe I'm wrong.
I'm not sure that he owns that. I know that his lot is fenced in. So,
Actually, it looks like there's a house on there.
Oh, there's a house, a pool,
Well,
garage.
Yeah.
Well, that's where are you talking about where Geyer Towing is?
to the west. Yeah.
West
Oh,
of
oh,
the parcel.
sorry.
Right up against the blue line.
Yeah.
Hey, Ron, just a quick question for clarification from my part. Was all the industrial to the right of the current property, was that installed after the zoning took place in town? Do you know?
That I do not know.
I think, I don't,
The Geyer Towing was Brown Towing before that.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's been used as a reclamation type of use.
Yeah, but I
there.
mean, the property, the zone was always industrial. I mean, I guess
Probably.
Down there, I think that
not
it's
grandfathered
not
in.
Well, is that-
desirable building area for.
Is that building on the north, would that meet the current offsets from being bumped up against residential? Is that far enough away? I don't know the scale here. Looks like it's about 100 feet, 80 to 100 feet, I guess. Would that structure be compliant with the residential property to the direct west of it?
I mean, there's no way to reach it from the cul-de-sac.
No, I think what,
Yeah, I was saying, well, he had asked the question whether or not that was already there and then it was zoned industrial, or was it zoned industrial and then the structures were built? And the reason I was asking was if it was zoned industrial and there were offsets, were they compliant? That's what it was just in relation to that question. Would they be currently compliant if you were building them today?
I don't know that those structures may not have been there before Conestoga. I don't know. Well, let's look for that.
I think that would be the rear of the property, and in RE, I think it's 40 feet rear setback, so I would say that it doesn't meet the requirements. Because it looks to be, it might be 6 feet off the property line maybe, but that's just guessing.
If we were to do this today, would we have R2 between the purple and the house and the RE there? If we were to plan it today?
You would want it to be NP to create the buffer between the industrial to the residential.
Right, NP, or it'd be like NP and limited commercial.
That could be your next application.
Well, the reason I was saying that is because if this is not how we would zone it today, if from scratch, then we're making the problem worse by making that industrial. It's, you know what I mean?
Have you had any of the residents next, and these sort of 3 properties touching, has anybody come forward and said, we're fine with it, or we're against it, or?
Well, these 3 properties abutting to this property, no.
Okay.
But we've had many people from Conestoga complain about the industrial that's behind them, which is Geyer Towing and that, but not this specific property.
Okay, so if this is a mapping error, Tom, do we have to automatically sort of say, yes, it's industrial, or could we consider doing limited commercial as a zone, or to create a buffer?
Yeah, so this is a legislative process really at the end of the day, and ultimately it is the town council who comprehensively rezones. So yes, you could do that.
Okay, with that.
I mean, it's a different kind of fish.
Yeah.
So John, when you say mapping error, are you talking about say the driveway portion was incorrectly colored purple?
That's my stance.
Okay, Ron's the other way around.
He's saying there's a mapping error, but he's saying it should be all purple.
Okay.
And in terms of Martina's question, I mean, as we were discussing earlier, right now it's a non-conforming use, but if we leave it alone, it can continue until something happens. If we rezoned a neighborhood professional, it would probably have to stop doing what they're doing.
Yeah.
No, I wouldn't say that at all. It'd still be a non-conforming use.
Okay, it'd just be.
Non-conforming instead of in a residential zone.
Okay, it'd be.
Oh, okay. I don't know.
I think that last.
That
time,
makes
I don't
sense.
know if it's the same this time, but last time we weren't, when someone applied for X, we weren't giving them Y. We were, I don't know, do you remember that? So, I mean, I would just leave it alone as is, rather than try to give it some other zone. But
I think at this point, I kind of agreed. We're kind of going into a deep spiral here with everything that's around it and what we're doing. I don't want to.
Well, I mean, the property is being used for how it wants to be used, and so it's not holding anybody back apparently, but it could be a problem if it changes, and I don't like that because there's no buffer.
Yeah.
So that's what's rubbing me the wrong way on that. I get why that looks like it should be purple. I do understand that, but I don't think it's holding anybody back by keeping it the way it is. It can only get worse.
Well,
like worse meaning it could turn
We
into
give it
something.
conditional approval, and we spell out, if indeed it does change.
That it should go to this.
Can that be done in this?
I don't think so.
Because if you do it, then it meets the code of being industrial. Like if they want to do something.
We don't want that to happen.
No, but I think you can't do a conditional approval.
No, I think what Tom stated was that if you were to change it to an industrial zone, and say, for instance, Mike Dixon sold the property and somebody purchased it, it would be in their responsibility to demonstrate that their proposed industrial use of the property was equal or less than
No, not after
no,
it
no,
gets
no, no.
industrial.
Yes.
That's a substitution.
Yeah, if you did not rezone.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It remains non-conforming.
Yeah.
And if the current owner were to sell to somebody else or rent to somebody else who would want to change the use from whatever it is now to even a different industrial use, but one that might be different, because the impacts may be different, then they would have to go to the Board of Appeals and get a special exception. One of the things they would have to establish is that the substitution is less impactful. I'm just paraphrasing.
Right. That makes sense.
So like a lawnmower.
Owned it, then
They can do whatever they want within the industrial zone, which could be
Yeah.
more impactful.
And I think that's making the has the potential to make the problem worse, put it up against the residential. It's like right there, like it's in their backyard.
Yeah.
And I know there are offsets, but it just, there probably should have originally been a buffer between those houses, those two lots that touch the purple. There probably should have been something there if it was done today. It was going to get rezoned, that whole thing. We're just making the problem worse, or what wouldn't be done today worse.
Yeah, I mean, they were first built, Conestoga was built in 1988. So. Does anyone have any recommendation?
I'll make a recommendation that we deny the request for industrial and we keep it residential.
Okay, so,
Back in it. It makes sense.
Can we make a map amendment as well as part of that denial that we remove the purple off the driveway?
can do that later.
okay, it's been recommended that we actually follow the staff's recommendation not to rezone the property because of the proximity to residential zoned property. The current business is a non-conforming and it's grandfathered in at this location. So we're agreeing with the staff not to recommend. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. Yeah, I do too.
Okay.
Next.
The last rezoning request is for 302 Woodersville Road.
They've been sitting there all night happily, just sitting there. Thank you so much.
Please come to the table if you'd like.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Bill Hopman, own the property at 302 Watersville Road. We've owned it for, me and John were figuring that out, 20 years, I think. I bought it from the Browns. Prior to that, I leased it for 3 or 4 years and ran the business out of it. The Browns previously had the property and ran a mulch business and made mulch and so forth. I'm not sure what it was for, what it was used for prior to that. A little history, we originally, when buying the property, I came into Monica and maybe the town planner at that point, I guess in 99, I can't remember, anyway. At that point, it was on the master plan in red as community commercial. I then bought the property thinking that that may be, the case. As the master plan moved forward at that time, it disappeared. So I came in, presented, and we talked. I came into one of the workshops and mixed use was then being discussed. So I actually made up a quick concept plan for mixed use at that time, and it was received pretty well by everybody. I don't know if, I think you were there, Bill. I think you.
I remember.
I remember it.
Yeah. So I actually brought that plan with me if we want to revisit that. I think it gives you guys an idea of our vision of the property. It's hard to, everybody would have a different idea of what we would propose, and I just, if it's something that we want to look at this evening, and it might help make your, get your minds around the thought of that being mixed use. I think there are no adjoining residential properties in that area. Next door, of course, is the park, the school to the north, the dental, and another business next door, the apartments across the street, townhouses across the street from that. It certainly does not work for a single family. I mean, no one's going to want to live there. So I'd like to show you the, if it's okay, if I can show you a little, I have a little PowerPoint to show you if that's something you want to do.
That's fine, yes.
Okay.
So while,
Actually from 2013.
while you're setting that up, who owns the property to the east? Like up to 27, like against 27?
Against 27 to
Yeah.
the east,
Or not who owns it? It's field, but what
that's park.
That's the,
part?
Yeah.
Wildwood is in yellow, or the Washington is yellow.
No, to the east,
on the corner of 27.
like up against,
I'm on the
yeah,
corner,
the
right.
corner, the corner.
So yeah, I'm on the corner of Watersville and 27.
So the outlying property is off of that, is what I'm.
yeah, see, you don't have that, right.
I'm looking at, this is what I thought we were talking about.
He's here.
Yeah, I'm all the way to the road.
He was the full corner.
So I'm right
So
on the
we're
corner.
not talking about this, we're talking about this?
This whole property, this is, the town actually runs directly through the middle of my property. So one side is Carroll and one side is.
So wait, what lot are we talking about, if you come back?
So
Like,
my
we're
whole
not-
lot
is-
are both of
is
these.
this.
So it runs from street.
Okay.
All right, but, okay, so the gray part, is that county?
That's county.
Oh,
So the thought
I
would
didn't
be-
know that.
Yeah. I didn't know either. Yeah, so the thought would be, if this moves forward, that we'd be annexed in for that. At the time when we did it in 2013, I guess, we talked about annexing that little piece of property because it's just kind of floating out there.
Is this the Park Place project?
So there would never be anything to your east, right?
Oh,
So-
Park Place, yeah. We named it Park Place, just.
So there would never be anything to the east, right? I mean, there would, it's county, right? So there wouldn't be anything to the east. There wouldn't be anything here, right?
That would be part of this whole project.
He wants, he would ask for it to be annexed in.
Okay.
Right, we'd
Gotcha.
ask for annexation.
Do we have to do that before we rezone it?
That's a good question.
Doesn't it have to be annexed before we rezone it?
So this is coming up 27 on the left.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. So September 16th, 2013 is when I prepared this. So many pounds later and a lot less hair later in 2022, we're looking at this again.
9 years of dots.
So that's 27 going north. You see the trees there on the left, that's our property. To the right is looking down Watersville coming from the town, and that's the small house.
Right.
The school road is there to the right. That's 2.5 acres on that property from road to road. There's an overhead view. My office is currently in that house, been there for 23 or 24 years.
Sorry.
Our vision, my wife Trudy, and our vision is that we put some pictures together of things we're thinking about. This one's just some thoughts. You can move on to the next. That's downtown Mount Airy. That's kind of what we're thinking we would mimic this after. Next
Prime
one.
Sports, what's that?
Yeah, it's no longer there.
No longer there. There's the Dunkin' Donuts building. Just
Does that have residential upstairs on the upper floor?
It was a residence there at one time.
right, and that's our thought.
Whole thing was residence.
That's the Kentlands, just kind of
Yeah.
giving you some feel for some of the lower businesses and then residential upstairs. Again, Kentlands, some architecture. Our big thought, and I'll show you in the next view, is we would flow into the park seamlessly. I think it would be really nice. We'd like to create a community place with park right next door. Just ideas and thoughts and just getting me a feel for what we're.
Would you wrap around the corner, or would you take one side of, is it 27?
I'll show you. I have a quick concept plan put together. We'll keep going. We'll get to that. Just trying to give you a feel for what we're envisioning.
It's kind of dark.
On here somewhere. Some difference. So this is what we're thinking. The entrance would be either from as far north as we can on Wardersville Road to create, an entry area, or actually get permission from the Board of Education to enter from the other road.
Probably won't happen.
So our thought is the big building butting up to Washington Park would be a giant pavilion, which would flow openly. Right. And then we'd have shops and maybe restaurants and ice cream and so forth that people from the park can flow into. People from the community would drive to, can actually flow from there to the park. I got a couple ideas and pictures on the next slide, I believe. Well, that's an overall. That gives you a feel for where we are. That's the corner of 27 Watersville. That's us. Across the street is the medical center, the apartments, and then there's townhouses and then apartments across the street. Further up, the middle school, and then back to our left behind us is the elementary school. So looking up from the park, this is kind of just a quick idea of what we're thinking. Trying to keep it low impact, but at the same time be welcoming and part of the community. A big pavilion where people could gather. We could have events, music that could flow out, all kinds of stuff, art exhibits, all kinds of things. Have that flow down into the park, but at the same time you could walk into the shops, restaurants, and it's small, but it would have enough there for the community to enjoy. Upstairs, apartments, I think it would be a nice livable area and flow nicely to the park and easy commute and so forth. This is coming up 27, forgive the crudeness of it, but just to give you a feel of the impact of it, I'm trying to keep it low profile and in harmony with the, everything else in the community. This again is from Watkins Park, this little elevation. You can see across the street, that's kind of the size of the building behind us. And then of course the apartments further down. This is coming up Watersville. So you can see even the building to the right on that, I thought could even be one big building, maybe even community center or something like that. And then some shops and stuff and integrated, mixed use, basically. This is coming right at Watersville, looking into it. And you can see how you flow through into the park. This is our vision. I'm not sure what else I have left. Just some of the benefits we're thinking, creating a small village center with a lot of pedestrian access and accessibility. With the park being the end of the rails to trails, I think this would be a great spot too. I think it could be the set off for, that and 5Ks, all kinds of stuff. Trying to keep the architecture in harmony with the community and, in harmony with the park and just just the access. And just ideas.
Well, I think that's a nice presentation. I mean, I think you're right. I mean, you're residing on it now, but, you know, it's a tough one to keep residential. When I see MXD in this case, I think the town's getting something from it. I mean, right, like the town is gaining something. That's how I view that.
Well, and just so you know, I'm a resident. I've been here since '84. And we're now town residents. You know, we want the same thing, and I think we need a place like this. I think it just flows seamlessly with everything else around it.
I think it makes sense.
I like the idea.
I think there's synergy to it.
Yeah, and your idea to flow into the park and to have people, you know, back and forth in the park. But I do think we're going to have to address the Carroll County thing first. We're going to have to get that annexed into the town.
But it could be, it would be being added to John's list, so it would be annexed, right? And then we could address it with rezoning.
I don't think you have to annex it first.
You don't think?
No.
I think. So
Could change the zoning?
roughly half, something like that.
Yeah, roughly.
Of it's in the town, so right now he's requesting that portion that's in the town be rezoned to MXD, with the thought that at some point in time after that occurs, you would file an application for annexation of what's in the county to come in as an and be rezoned to MXD.
That would be the preferred path instead of getting it into the town and then rezoning it in the master plan? Or no?
It would take longer to annex it, and so we
Right.
could be done.
Oh, okay.
with the-
I mean, but again, the one consideration has to be, and I don't know the ins and outs of this, is you have to look at the parcel that's in the town, not that they
Right.
Oh,
more
that's true.
convenient,
Yeah,
how
sure.
big is it, and appropriate for
Yeah.
They couldn't work concurrently. I mean, we couldn't. They almost have to work together. So
Well, yeah, you could put your annexation application in, yeah. But I, of course, do have to point out is in our current MXD statute or ordinance, you have to be commercial. Is that right?
I can read that.
No, you're thinking of the special exception.
Well, I know we did it for the North Candace, but I thought that unless maybe we changed it. Maybe we changed
There
it.
was an minimum acreage that you had.
Yeah, I think
For the
so, yeah.
CC.
Which that's what I was referring
Yes.
to earlier. I don't know.
Well,
what that is.
I saw that, and I didn't really understand it, because I think this property works perfectly at 2.5 acres for this. So I think that's something we have to.
Is 2.5 the part that's already in the town?
No, it's
Okay, that's the entire part.
Okay, so
So maybe he would have to annex, maybe they would have to annex it
Madam
first.
Chair.
Yes,
If
sir.
I could real quick. So this is one of the questions when I've been, when I first started working here, is the actual town boundary. It should be on the right-of-way line for 27 and not in the middle of Watkins Park. And I'm not sure why it's that way. I think it's a drafting error possibly.
No,
So-
it's just the way that they annex things in and.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, look, if you look at it, all.
There's a
over
whole
the place.
portion.
Oh, all over the town.
I
There's
know, but
places
this
that
is
are in,
one that
places that are
runs
not
from
in.
Watersville down to.
Yeah, I know. Oh,
Should be that our corporate limits go to the edge of that right of way possibly.
you would think.
right. And maybe that's I don't know.
And I don't know,
Can we address this in the master plan? No.
Well, at the boundaries of the town.
No.
But the question really is, should the boundary,
be adjusted to
the
encompass.
map not properly represent?
That's what I'm saying, is that
I don't know.
maybe
I
the
think it's
boundary
what we
line is
said.
actually to the right of way.
Oh, sure, yeah. it might
I
be.
mean,
Well,
if we can't recommend rezoning because of the property size, that's a problem. I think right, like, so I think we need to figure that out, because if
Yeah.
it needs to be annexed to big enough to make MXD, there's no doubt I think that this should be MXD, I like it. But can we do it? Can we do it at the current size of the property? I don't know. I don't know the answer to
I thought we had the limit was 5 acres.
current size of what is
The
outlined.
size is if
Yeah.
it's too small, then the
I
answer
meant to
is
check
that
the
code's
coordinates, but
currently
I didn't have time before it
written,
came.
you could not, but you could file your annexation petition and run that concurrently. I would, annexations take a while.
Yeah, so you might
So
want to
do
go ahead and
master
do that.
plans.
Yeah.
And comprehensive rezonings.
So to be able to actually make that feasible, we need to know whether this is going to be able to,
So
be MXD.
the other thing could be a text amendment that would suggest a change in the MXD requirement, I guess. I mean, that'd be the only other thing that I could think of. I'm not saying it's easy to do either, or that it would happen, but it's conceivably another way you could go about it.
Well, go ahead.
I don't have my book with me, and I don't know what the text amendment for the MXCUU is. Is that a limit on that?
Acreage wise, yeah,
I cannot remember.
Minimum acreage, what is it?
12 acres or something.
MXUCC?
Yeah.
Is
Have to,
Somewhere around there.
we'd have to do another text amendment.
So should we at least figure, I mean, John, so we should probably figure out if this line is really right? And then figure out
And then move ahead.
whether or not the size of the new drawn line is
What?
big enough to be.
He said it's only 2.5 acres, the whole thing.
2.44 acres.
That's
even
the total
with that.
acreage.
So,
Whole thing's only 2.44.
right. So it's only 1.21 either side, roughly.
Have you talked to anybody at the schools,
Not yet.
county? Yeah.
You're gonna,
I think there might be some
There will-
concern. Might want to talk to those
As far
folks.
as entrance,
The school, the schools
There
and the
can look at
parents and the
entrance.
traffic and, yeah,
right.
yeah.
and honest,
Well, I'm there every day, so I can.
Talking
attest
about
to
having a
why
mixed
it's not
use
that-
back up to the school and the
Really
park
is.
and all the extra traffic.
You've
yeah.
got the hours that the school is going to be operating and the traffic times are not going to coincide with the difficulties.
Yeah, the businesses won't be open and
Right.
and when the school's letting
No
out.
breakfast cafes?
They're going to be small.
If there's
Yeah,
a place to
that's
eat,
good.
the school faculty may.
They like it, and they might like it.
Maybe don't walk into the place. I think there's some things we need to figure out here, because I like the idea, but we may not be able to recommend it based on our own code. So how do we, can we?
Madam Chair, if I may,
How do we-
I think your idea of let the town figure out exactly where the property boundary is first, because that would solve a lot of problems for Watkins Park and everything else along the right-of-way of 27. Then, once that's solved, we could potentially, he could do the petition for annexation still, and maybe, I'm not sure if it's legal or not, but annex it, but if all the property boundaries line up in a straight line, do something in the annexation agreement or something where, potentially look at MXD, because the idea is okay, but there's the potential, we got MXD here, getting ready to have MXD on the other side of Watkins Park. We're getting ready to do something with Harris and LaShire, and not knocking it, it's a good idea. I like particularly the pavilion. No matter what you put here, you're gonna have parents come out and really question it because it's next to the school.
Right, that's what I was.
You're gonna have problems with that. I can, depend on what it is. Is it better than something else that could go there next to the school? Yes.
Right.
I'll guarantee you on that.
And look at the map, the schools are pretty far.
Yeah, but I know how, it's next to the school. So that's a whole different ballgame. I'm trying to think, so it's gotta be looked at, as Councilman Demoda would say, the holistically in everything, and we're gonna be getting too much mixed use along 27. Then you're gonna hear people come out and say you're commercializing the Route 27. So
Oh.
good or bad, I'm just,
Yeah.
I'm just pointing things out. So I think the first move is to see exactly where the boundary is. That could solve a lot of problems, because we have the town planner here saying, not the town planner, excuse me, the county planner for Carroll County saying we should kind of hinting that we should find out where the boundary is, because annexing only, say, an acre and a quarter into it as MXD is not going to do you any good whatsoever. So we should try and figure that out. And I guess how long would solving the boundaries take, John? Would that be something? The corporate limits, would that take quickly, something quick? Would it take?
I would think that I would probably punt that to Carroll County, have them looked in their records, because I don't even know where I would begin. They're the ones that do our mapping for the town.
Okay.
If there's an issue with it, Hannah is coming to the mic.
Yeah, you came at the right night because the Carroll County plan is here.
Yeah, it sounds off. The battery died?
There we go. I'm going to go out on a limb and say the boundary is right, just because of how funky all these boundaries can be. I would say the best route is to look into annexing it. It's hard to say which would happen first, because they're both a long process.
Right.
But
well, it's been 10 years.
yeah. But yeah, I can
This
look
poor
into the
guy
boundaries
started,
tomorrow.
what, yeah.
Hannah, what's the approach to ask this question of the planning, of the county planning commission?
I would say do what you guys feel is best for the parcel and the town, and then he can come to the. Okay.
It's on.
It's on.
Oh, okay. Sorry. And then if he wants to annex it, we can start that process with the town. And if it's already going to be rezoned as MXD, that'll be something to be considered with the county commissioners. I'm going to assume if it's in the county, it's going to be agriculture. I'm not sure if you know the zoning of it, but
Is it on there?
It doesn't say the zoning on here, but I would suspect it is ag.
and you might have to get a zoning waiver for that, depending on the density, but a lot of things running simultaneously.
Right. Is there a way to move forward with contingencies in place? That in order to move forward, this has to happen, annexation, and
I think there's too many questions out there that we need to address to try to figure out before we can make that decision.
Right.
There's too many questions.
But we can add it to the consideration of the master plan, right? Like with the rezoning that's going into the master plan, which will be some time, and we may have some answers that will help.
Pending.
Yes.
Right, so if we make a recommendation to keep it in consideration while we're going through the master plan and maybe gather some information or start the annexation process, I think that would be probably the best.
I think that's the recommendation that we do, to start to look into the annexation process.
Right.
First. And then there is that part of the master plan where we have potential other places that could be MXD, and we put the Hotman property in that list.
Right.
You know, that's one of the charts that you see.
So who is petitioning the annexation? Because as the town, we wouldn't be, I guess, are we annexing the corporate limits? I mean, what?
Yeah, I think that Mr.
Right, but are we just
Yeah, that's what.
1.25 acre? Or are we looking at the corporate boundaries? It gets kind of crazy and fudge, I'm not sure. It seems like.
Well, I think Hannah addressed that probably the best way to do that is to go through the annexation route as opposed to the boundary route, corporate boundary route.
But we have to sit down with Carroll County and see what they're willing to consider.
Thank you.
For the gentleman's sake, I would say we would just look at his property for now, and then if we want to take on the bigger project of the corporate limits, then see what we can do, because the boundaries are really funky. Not just for Mount Airy.
Well, all these old towns are, I mean.
Hannah, would you anticipate Carroll County saying no to any annexation? Okay.
Multiple properties, it'd be hard with multiple property owners, and depending on each property zoning, and
still get to get the state approval as well, so.
Well, but what I would say is that the town has somewhere the meets and bounds of its limits, right? And Thompson's not here, but somebody of his ilk and expertise would probably isolate the portion of the meets and bounds that relate to this particular property. It'll probably take a little bit of time, and look at it, compare it to where the line is now, and determine whether the line's accurate, at least in accordance with the meets and bounds description that we have on record as being our town limit in this area.
And his,
probably be the easiest way to do that.
his boundary survey does show the corporate limits going through his parking lot. And this is.
Not unusual.
Right, which is by Vanmar, so I would think that, yeah, he signed it, so that's the corporate limits.
I would bet.
Right.
That's not unusual. That happens all the time.
The
So-
pretty flash drive too, I gotta say. That's my wife. Sure.
I'll also add that anything the town has in your designated growth area is potential to be annexed.
Right.
And if I'm not mistaken, well, I don't know that we knew that that part of the parcel was in the potential growth area, so it wasn't addressed in the 2013.
Right.
That's the first I've heard of it. I didn't realize that.
What's that?
That part of your property was in Carroll County.
Yeah. But when I purchased it, it was on the master plan. The entire thing was colored red for commercial. That's why I proceeded, to be quite honest, but,
That might have
so
been-
that disappeared.
That might have been a draft, it's not to say that that was actually the way it was zoned.
Right.
Because it wouldn't have been encompassing
No,
that.
it was never zoned. It was never zoned commercial.
It might have been a preliminary plan that never got approved.
So staff recommendation is neighborhood professional, and he was asking about MXD.
I was just saying NP because, again, it was
The school.
abutting other residential across the street. And again, I mean, the crazy thing is we don't differentiate between our open space, town open space, or conservation area, or whatever, or possibly even, you know, the school or municipal school area. So I was just saying NP to create a buffer to allow him to have more potential use of what he's currently running a business out of. That's why I was recommending NP, but again, if he's asking for MXD, I think there's a lot of questions of like, can he even meet the MXD requirements? And again, this corporate right-of-way question is, you know, are we gonna go through annexation? Is that gonna be done in a timely manner to meet the master plan? I don't know. There's a lot of unanswered questions, in my opinion.
I'd like to suggest this, John. I think you need to sit down with Mr. Hopman, and we need to put together a plan to help him to get all of this, kind of how we're going to do this. And sit down and write out the plan that we're going to do to help him to best be able to utilize his property.
John, the neighborhood professional, you were saying that would allow him to act faster, right?
Well, again, you know, when I showed you the map, it only shows the piece that's in the town.
Yeah, right.
That's the only piece I can talk about.
Right.
Right, so
Gotcha.
until the rest of the property comes in, I mean, again, it's up to you guys to make the final decision.
Right, I mean, you're
If
thinking
go with the
that-
MXD or NP or LC or CC.
But you were thinking MXD doesn't fit the size of that that parcel that you outlined, right?
No.
Yeah,
exactly.
so that's,
Yeah, I understand, but I'm not sure that wasn't a mistake, because I do think this works.
no, I like what you have.
And that's why
I
we're
know
saying we could.
I know why he recommended neighborhood professional, because
Yeah.
of the part that he was trying to highlight.
We could always do a text amendment for your property to put it in there. But I'd like to see this get resolved first get it all into the town, be it the annexation, border boundary or whatever, so that we don't have to worry about that part anymore. And then I agree with it. It needs it actually is part of a gateway to the town, coming up Watersville. So I really like what you've done, and give you a chance to kind of start going into the school and get the feelings from them as to how, it might be that they'll like it, but they want some sort of changes or, some different things. And we can write that into the text amendment.
But can we investigate whether or not that can be MXD in its entirety? Because we may be just, it might be a wild
What are you
goose.
talking about? The
Well,
1.21 acres?
Yeah, if the entire property.
It can't be. We have a minimum acreage.
Yeah, but I don't know what that is.
It's like 5 acres.
Is it?
Yeah, it's,
Madam Chair, I
Yes.
just want to speak up here. I think we're getting into a discussion of where we're trying to fit a property into the master plan in a way that could be considered questionable. So I think we should just figure out if the property can be where it is, the boundaries, all that, annexation, and move ahead, because I'm also concerned with, we're talking writing a text amendment for this property right now, also putting special conditions in the master plan. Well, we can put this in MXD, which brings me back to something we just had a nice, fun, contentious battle over called the Beck property, because it was in the master plan as MXD. So I would just say, let's figure out where exactly, how much is in the town, and move forward from there.
that's what I just said.
I know, but we're just
Thank you.
getting on, you're welcome.
I know that's not what you want to hear,
Yeah.
but I'm trying to protect you too, because of the two properties and the fact that, you have property in Carroll and the town of Mount Airy. It's almost like having property in Frederick and Carroll County at the same time. And I think that's what we need to work for. I don't think at this point in time we can make a decision to put it in, rezone it. I'm sorry. Thank you for your time, though, and your contribution to the town.
So just looking forward, annexation takes a long time. Suppose it goes through. At that point, we've missed the master plan. And
So in that case, if the annexation goes through, then it's a major change in your adjoining property. I would think that it would potentially apply for, to possibly come in front of the town council and planning commission to get rezoned at that point in time, right? Because if our corporate limits go to the edge of the right-of-way, is that a drastic change? Would that be considered a change?
A change in zoning between master plans you're talking about?
Right.
I'm not sure about that one.
Right, I wasn't sure if the.
But I wouldn't be so sure. I'll just simply say our 2013 master plan got passed in 2016. Now, I know this group's on its way to being much more efficient than that. And there were a lot of issues that were hopping. Bill will remember, we had like 4 major projects at the time. And at some point, somebody said, let's just do the master plan. So I'm not criticizing, I'm just saying the master plan process is not as short as you're maybe thinking it is.
Right.
I'm shooting for 2023.
But my point was, if it never meets the qualifications to be MXD, then we should consider it for rezoning for neighborhood professional as you recommended. So that's what I was saying, is that at least let's recommend that it be considered for a usable space.
that was my next question.
Right, because I don't think no matter what happens, it's going to ever fit the parameters of an MXD, which is unfortunate because I like what you had there. But it does meet neighborhood professional requirements, as John had suggested. And so that would allow you to do something with it, right? So I would like to motion that we consider the rezoning and the master plan for neighborhood professional.
Just a recommendation of neighborhood
So
professional.
do we need to, we were talking about this earlier, I don't know if we can, like if they need to put in a different application, because we were just talking about that, whether you can approve something that someone didn't apply for? Do you know, Tom?
You don't have to apply, right?
That they do apply, yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So yeah, it's yes or no, MXD, not.
But,
Okay.
Recommendation.
yeah,
Just,
So is that, do you want us to consider you? for NP?
Well, the only other question I would have, would that hamstring me from that vision?
it wouldn't look like that.
No, I know that, but if I wanted to try to move past that, get an annex, make a text amendment change, would being in NP make any difference at that point?
Would it make it worse?
No, I don't think so.
I know what,
So I would say, yes, let's do that, move forward with what we can, but that's our ultimate vision. I think that's what benefits the town, not NP. But I would be happy with that, because right now it's not zoned the way it should be. But,
right.
Yeah.
but you know,
But NP is a start.
yeah, right.
Yeah, I mean, you're getting something out of it, because if it never meets the MXD criteria, then it won't be MXD.
Okay, so you did move, correct?
Moved, I moved.
Okay, to follow the staff recommendation. So I need to hear a second.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and second that we follow the staff recommendation for 302 Watersville Road and it be rezoned to NP. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, at least we're rezoned. It's a step in the right direction. We recommended.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming back.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Nice house, by the way, on Paradise.
Yeah, that whole development.
I'm not recycling right now. So we're in the middle of a meeting.
Okay, we're not finished because we have to go to the reports. Council, it's 10:30. We got till 10:30. Sorry,
10:30, oh.
There, 10:30.
10:30.
It's been 10:30.
I'm sorry, did Hannah give her report already?
Lord of mercy, yes.
Okay, I said I was late, so I wasn't sure.
Okay.
I was gonna whatever. Okay, I'll do it quick. Meeting was held February 7th at 7:30 PM in Town Hall. Several ordinances were heard or introduced. 2022-2 was development fees, or the AKA the impact fees. And 2022-3 was the enabling legislation for the public safety impact fee. They were both up for adoption, but we decided to wait until the March meeting to take up that for a vote. Of course, as the town attorney just mentioned, 2022-4 was the proposed CC district, was introduced and scheduled for a public hearing, but I believe it has been moved to the April meeting now. 2022-5 was the NP proposed changes to NP district that you heard and decided to wait on for further review. The resolution 2022-2 was available water and sewer capacity, which came back before you all tonight to work on some more. We held a workshop on the proposed charter changes on Thursday, 2/23. Unfortunately, we only got through about half of one of the proposed charter changes, so there will be more workshops on everything. There are, as you're all aware, there are numerous upcoming events on the Beck property and Green Tree. So please stay tuned. Anyone watching out there in TV land, please check the town website for the exact dates and what type of hearings they are. Next council meeting will be Monday, March 7th should be 7 p.m., I believe. So see you all then if you so choose to come.
And I'll make a correction, of course, because we aren't going to have another meeting, work session, February 10th. That's March 10th.
Oh.
And also, the next planning commission is going to be March 28th. Apologize.
Okay, I'm not going to go, the other items are there that we can see them all. I guess I better announce them anyway. We have the work session at Town Hall on March the 10th, from 6 to 8. On the Green Tree property, public hearing in Town Hall is March 14th, from 7 to 7:30. The Beck property, the public charrette is in Town Hall, March 14th from 7:30 to 9. Okay, we saw the zoning administrator's report, and our next commission date is March 28th at 7 p.m. Is there any other business? Seeing none, I'm not going to even ask for a motion. I'm just going to go ahead and adjourn the meeting because I can do that. Thank you all for staying around.
And if you don't want your plans, just leave them at your desk and I'll recycle them tomorrow. Yes. Would you rather have the 11 by 17s? Yes. Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.